Eastern and Southeastern Ohio by demanding energy independence, lower gas prices, lower inflation, and a stronger economy. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. I am Joe Daniel, your host, and we get to talk about things in business and entrepreneurs. And, I specialize in sort of like the segment of small business where you go from hobbyist to right into practicing this in the real world, trying to make a living at it, scaling it up so that you can make a good living at it, and maybe even dressing it up at some point to sell it off to a bigger company. All of those things are in my wheelhouse. So this is a spot where we really need more entrepreneurs and capitalists. So my goal is to entice and maybe inspire some of you off of the sidelines to take some of your specialties and your genius and start practicing them in exchange for money. And that's the whole gig here on the Bottom Line Business Show. The phone lines are open for the entire show. So if any of you have any questions, or if you just want to share your story, some of the best inspiration is going to come from you who maybe have done it, gone through it, and now you've got a story to tell. And so if you want to share some of those stories with our audience, 330-729-9977, or you can text it at 333-1570, and I will read those during the program. Or if you want to tell your stories right off the get-go, feel free, call that phone number and share it with me. It's nice because here's the thing. Like when you're starting, there aren't many people to talk to about this. So it's a very, lonely type of stresses and anxieties where the people care about you will listen to you, but it's tough to advise someone we don't understand, right? And so when you're taking a risk and you're investing your own money and you're investing your own time and you're trying to line up customers and you're trying to do all this stuff, like all of that is a scary proposition. And the reason is because you might know 25% of what you're doing and 75% you're figuring it out as you go. And literally everybody that I know is doing that at the same time. There are even people that have done it before still do a fair bit of building it as they go. So it takes a special kind of brain to be able to, instead of having all of your preparations complete before you launch, that you launch and then you see where it goes. Sometimes it's an expensive deal. I've made some stupid mistakes. We'll call it stupid taxes. And it's just part of the cost of learning yourself into a new trade or into a new enterprise. So 330-729-9977. So I'm going to talk a little bit about failure and the typical failures that businesses hit. And I'll give you some commentary on what I've seen and how I feel about that. So this is in ascending order. So the number 10 reason for business failure is no business plan or poor planning. And if you've listened to this program, you know that the first step of my growth plan is number one is whiteboarding, where the imaginative faculties of my brain work really well with a marker, with a whiteboard marker in hand and a whiteboard, just to be able to spill it out as I think it up and dream it and just commit it. And then my logical brain then has to assemble all of those ideas and put a plan together. Now, I don't start spending money until I have worked it out in the abstract every single time. So if you trade stocks, right, and you want to go put some real money in the stock market, people who are just getting started might just say, hey, I'll put some in there and I'll see what happens. Joe's method would mean that you, on paper, pretend like you put money into it by putting a dollar figure on a spreadsheet. And then you pretend, spend it, and buy a stock at 10:30 on a Monday morning. And you record what you would have spent with commissions and everything. And then you track it for as long as you want to pay attention to it, and you sell it, pretend sell it, and write down what you would have sold it for. And you write down at the end of the sheet, you have the cost basis of what you bought it for. Then you have the results of what you sold it for. And then you have the difference between the two. If you lost money, then it would be a negative number. If you made money on the trade, it would be a positive number. And therefore, that if you would have done that, that is the practice. So let's just say you do that 100 times. And the percentage is 50% of the time that you had a positive integer and 50% of the time you had a negative integer. Well, you could start convincing yourself that you have maybe, you have some confidence going into it that if this would have been real money all along, that you could have done it. And here's the metrics. Here's what it would have been. And that's really what I need by my abstract and my business plan and my whiteboard is I have to prove to myself that I have enough data to get started. Because if I don't have enough data to do it in the abstract, then I do not have enough data to do it in the real world. Now, I'm making a lot of the strategy up, right? Once that happens, but I already have a plan that if this is the way it's likely to go, how it would go, and if it's a a good amount of money. You know how many businesses start up, they don't take into consideration what success would even look like, and so when it starts happening to them, they're completely surprised where how much time it takes, how little money's coming through the door, and how do they pay all their expenses when all of that could have been known within the margin of error and given you an idea like how much time, how much money equals cash register ringing, how many customers on a good day, how many customers on a bad day. And you could do all these guessings and paint the picture. Because if you don't have guessings what a good day looks like, what are you marketing towards? What are you trying to have happen? And too much, this isn't like a gambling venture. This is it's basically metering and measuring a bunch of, abstract things and then trying to get those things to manifest in the real world. So planning and no business plan means that if you have success, it was by chance. And if you don't have success, it was by chance. All right. Number 9 is failure to understand your customers. And part of that planning phase after you do all of your math is to find out 2 portions of it: who your customers are and if you have access to them. And what that means is if I'm selling a product that, applies to a certain demographic, if it's universal demographic, I still have to pick a group that I am going to resonate with and I'm going to be able to connect to. So let's just say I'm selling bottled water, or I'm selling heating and cooling, or I'm selling, vacations, right? Each one of those is going to have a person that I have pictured that I know is a buyer of what I'm trying to sell. And I have to have a road, a pathway. I'm going to say, hey, okay, well, here's the demographic. Your demographic is anybody with 55 and older with, $100,000 income and, lives in this part of the country, right? And so what's your pathway to be able to get to the customer? Do you know them? Can you shake hands with them? Can you find them? Can you get more messaging out to them? If you don't know them, then again, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to do this great product. And if I go around and ask people if they know your product exists in your demographic, if I just poll general people, they're going to say they don't know you were there. And it's a shame because I would have totally bought from them. Right. And so I used to host a reptile expo in Las Vegas. So a friend of mine, when we were young, we started breeding projects where we would import reptiles from Madagascar and Africa, and we'd start these breeding projects. So he and I, as we grew up, we said if we were ever in the position that we could do an expo, Las Vegas really needed one. They didn't have one at the time, so we were going to do an expo. So we both got in points in our career that we could afford to do an expo. So we take over the ballroom of a hotel. We sell table space to vendors to come set up. And then we invite the public and we market the public to shop the expo and sell tickets at the front gate. Pretty easy, simple, business maneuver. Now, I would go out there early on Thursday before the expo. The expo started on Friday. All our business to business sales were on Friday. Public was Saturday and Sunday, and then I would go home on Monday. Well, Thursday was my research and development day. And usually we'd have about $30,000 in marketing going into the show by that point. So most of my ad dollars were already spent. We had a good bit on that Thursday and Friday and Saturday that are the last remaining portions of our ad runs, but there were no new money being spent. Whatever's been happening at that point has already happened. And my goal, and Las Vegas is a tough market for me because, we're low dollar, $30,000 is nothing. And you are competing against every Las Vegas brand for the attention of people who live in Las Vegas who have been totally desensitized to traditional marketing, right? And I remember sitting in my hotel room watching television. There was a car dealership that was literally screaming into the camera. And I was a little blown back, but I'm thinking, but you know what? This is probably an escalation thing. Their competition used bright lights, so they use brighter lights. And then the competition used scantily clad women, and they use even more scantily clad women. And then they use loud noises, so they even started screaming in the camera. And then this escalation means to get somebody's attention, you have to keep ratcheting up what you're willing to do to differentiate yourself between you and the competition. And in a very bright, very aggressive, very loud city, everything's going to be loud. So my marketing was not loud. It was very Ohio-like marketing. And so I'd go out there on a Thursday and I would go to places like reptile shops, and I would talk to not only the owners of the shops. Most of the shops knew we were coming to town because that was part of our marketing pitch. We'd put flyers on their counters. But I wanted to talk to people that were in the reptile shop buying reptiles or supplies or whatever. And I would say, hey, did you know Reptile Expo was coming to town? And I wanted to know if everybody they asked. I didn't care if people didn't come to the show, right? But I wanted to make sure that my marketing at least let everybody know that there was a show. That was a success. Now, second part would be as soon as I get, complete saturation where everybody knew it was going to happen, then obviously I would want to entice more and more people from that set. My rate of exposure, right, was about 20%. 20% of the people I asked, did you know a show's coming to town? For people who actually lived in Vegas was about 20%. And I never, no matter how much money I spent or what I did, I could never get above that 20%. So the shows did really well in spite of nobody actually knowing that lived in North Las Vegas or, the segment, the area where the people actually the population is really dense in Las Vegas. But again, I was still in, I did it for 7 years, and each time I made little carvings of more exposure, but I never really got to the point where I did something and the city knew it, right? Because I could do something in Youngstown and I can spend $20,000 and pretty much ask everybody, and everybody would at least know that it's happening. I could get saturation because it's a smaller market and media reaches more people, and that message is a little bit easier to get out. There, it's harder, less control of total across the board, where we one time ran a bunch of ads on one of the news stations, and so that we were able to get on a couple of the morning shows and bring some reptiles on, which was great. So everybody in that audience then knew that reptile expos were coming there. But guess what? If you did that in Youngstown, a reptile expo is kind of weird enough that they would write about it. Well, in Las Vegas, reptile expos are not weird, right? It was cool that we brought some crazy animals and let the morning host play around with them. But from a viewer's standpoint, it's like, listen, down the block, I got a guy that will get eaten by a tiger and, do some magic trick where he comes out the front of an elephant or something like that. So your reptile expo is not, it's not going to be something that's going to shock me or pique my interest. And so again, and that was just on knowing your customer. Wow, I'm only on number 9. Let's go to number 8. Number 8 is inventory mismanagement. And that could be, and if you're just joining us now, I'm going down and counting the 10 biggest reasons why small businesses fail. And so 8 is inventory mismanagement, and that's where hardware and things that you sell either get stolen, get lost, get given and not billed. But if there's not a way to track inventory, then you end up see a lot of, especially retail goods in electronics and regular retail, only have a single digit margin on them. So with a single digit, you're worse than 1 in 10. If you lose 1 in 10, you've removed all of your margin. So your inventory has to be pretty straight on. So things that affect it, theft. So if things walk out the back door without being paid, that counts. Also, what about retail goods that get returned? If your salespeople aren't qualifying your customers very well and you get a lot of returns or you get a lot of breakages that you don't get reimbursed for, a lot of that stuff can come off of the mismanagement. So your goal is to have a thing and it goes out your front door and it doesn't come back and it gets rung through the register. And most point of sale, I would say retail is probably your hardest bit here. 7, and this one is probably the truest on here, is unsustainable growth. I have had more personal experience with having 40 and 50% quarter over quarter growth that I couldn't keep staffing or equipment or my project support ahead of the request for services. And so that expansion and growth was that if we were to keep it in line and we keep growing the staffing as much as we did the demand for services, what ended up happening was the quality of service goes down. You can't field people out. So they feel worse than if they'd have never known you existed in the first place. But through sort of our marketing at a certain point, we were able to throttle our, sort of like the growth curve so that we have it matched up with how we are in the field. So like, for instance, we're hiring a couple people on the computer side of things because our project board usually has about 70 projects at any given time. It has 120 right now, which means the demand exploded. And we are really trying to keep up with that demand by hiring more field staff and whatnot. But it's a beautiful problem to have, but it's suffocating and can actually hurt your brand if it's not properly managed. And just right here, not managing it all that properly. All right, we'll be back. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Unfortunately, many on social media bring more toxicity than togetherness.
The Democrats, they're toxic.
Thankfully, your original social media is still here.
We don't always agree on everything.
This is 570 WKBN.
Keep listening for the next chance to win your way to our iHeartRadio Music Festival, September 23rd and 24th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Tickets are on sale right now. AXS.com.
Stream it free on the CW app and CWTV.com.
Having the time of your life is more rewarding than ever when you visit any of the MGM resorts nationwide. With MGM Rewards, dine, stay, play, and earn on all of it. Get details at MGMRewards.com. Subject to earning and redemption limitations applicable to certain purchases and in certain states.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride from pandemic to inflation. I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you're eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you the money. Our tax attorneys are specialists in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. The team at GetRefunds.com has already returned over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help you too. Just go to GetRefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. That's GetRefunds.com. No risk, high reward. GetRefunds.com.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. Thank you, everyone, for listening out there and supporting this program. Those of you on social media, welcome to the show. You can also comment on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere that you're watching, and I'll see those comments and I'll address you here behind the microphone. And today we're talking about some of the reasons for small business failure. Preaching what happens sometimes will allow you to avoid these things happening so that doesn't happen to you. Sort of like what we do as part of our brand. We illustrate things that have happened. They might have not happened to you, but you kind of take mental note, and then you can kind of see the symptoms when it's happening, and then you can properly classify yourself as being in that camp before there are any consequences to being there. And that's the hope. We can talk about this stuff. And even aspiring, those of you who have not yet gotten practice, some of the reasons why you might not be doing it are the unknowns, the fear that is associated with what could happen, what's the worst. And if I give you 10 of the big reasons that people fail, and all of them are like, oh, you know what? I'm good at mitigating that. I'm good at managing that. I'm good at being on top of that. You might have exhausted all of the reasons why you shouldn't do it just based on what you've heard and how well you think you could respond to some of the things that you heard. I do want to pitch that my company and my enterprises are really going to dig into the marketing game here in Northeast Ohio. Why I like this is because, I get to talk to a lot of business people in, my pursuits, whether or not it's studio or computer or any of the other companies. And feedback. I just sit back and listen and find out where people are struggling. And marketing is one of those things where I think some companies find success in spite of doing marketing very poorly. Some buy into some kind of some kind of corporate train that gets their marketing to follow an already accelerating pathway, and then some never even really get into it and kind of struggle. The sixth reason for business failure is lack of sales. It's one of our creeds when we're coaching businesses through that. Sales solves a lot of problems. You can buy yourself out of a lot of your struggles with disorganization and culture and all of that stuff if you have sales. But sales is a hard one to overcome because buying into a solution when money is tight is tough. You're pitted against free decisions versus paid decisions, and so sales solves a lot of those problems. So that's number 6. And number 5, we see this one a lot. Single operator trying to do it all, trying to be the accountant, trying to be the person in the field practicing, trying to be the marketer, trying to be the accountant, trying to be everything. And there isn't enough of you to go around to all of the very important capacities that are needed in business. So you're either going to farm it out, and that's what I hope to do with my marketing thing, is I want people to come with their brand, tell me who they're going after, and then I can put my ability to be able to line people's up their story. Because really, marketing comes down to this, and it's different from advertising, by the way. So marketing is a strategy of creating a tunnel from you to whoever's buying your product. And it does not have to be traditional advertising that gets you there. It's just that if you have the ability to fill a pipeline with request and demand that make your phone ring, your email ring, the register ring, or the online sales go, whatever that is what your marketing plan builds. And we've done it successfully. I don't think there's ever been a campaign that we put on that didn't exceed what we needed, and we ended up having to throttle it like we are now. It's never been on the other side where there weren't enough sales. There's always too many. And so we want to share some of that ability with companies that want to just offload it to someone reputable who they trust. And that's the big thing. Like, I don't want you to be a marketer if you don't feel like that's your strong suit. I'd rather you give it to me, let me do what I do best, and bring sales and make the phone ring and, try to accomplish whatever. So, as a business owner, I know how marketing was always pitched to me, and it was really done poorly. Right. Some of the first advertisers or advertising sellers that tried to get me to buy product, they wanted me first to lower my expectations that if I spent this ad money, that I had to know that it might not result in a sale, because it's about brand. It's about exposure. Right. And I thought about it and thought, there's this professional telling me that I'm going to spend money and my expectations shouldn't be that I at least get my money back from those ads. This sounds like a stupid thing. So I decided that I was going to invent something that my requirement for marketing was it had to give me a 5-to-1 return on my money. So if I spent $10, right, I could expect $50, right, from my $10 spend. And then when that came in, I can reinvest and then spend again. So I said 2 things. I was going to take 20% of my revenue and I was going to use it for marketing. And no matter what I did on marketing, I need a 5-to-1 result. So if you do that math, I'm spending 20% and expecting 5 times the amount back. So that math works for me. So this process was that I put an extreme, leverage on what I expected from every marketing dollar. And some things just don't work out well, and that's okay. I just will reserve it until I find something that works, and I will drill into it until I've gotten diminishing results or returns. And so I want to share that ability and just that brute force, how much effort we put into bringing marketing messages to people. And if you're in the business and you don't feel like doing marketing, or you feel like maybe some of your marketing dollars been wasted on that whole exposure thing, you could bring some of that over to my way, coach me into what you want to effectively do, and then put me on the case, and then I'll do marketing for it. We're buying in and getting partners in all realms of marketing. So we're going to have friendly people who are professionals and know what they're doing here. And that's really the deal. You're not buying into one salesperson. You're buying into a whole sphere of people who do this for a living. So 330-729-9977. Text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'm back.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-990-8755 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-990-8755. That's 800-990-8755. What do you have to lose? Call 800-990-8755. Again, 800-990-8755.
Bail was set at $100,000 for a man facing several charges, including 2 counts of rape. 23-year-old Zach Ryan Ziegler is facing a total of 6 charges. He's in the Trumbull County Jail. Within the next 30 days, more roads and intersections will close in downtown Youngstown. It's all part of the Smart 2 project. Boardman Street, Commerce Street, and Front Street are being worked on. Soon, construction will begin on Federal Street. 34-year-old Martin Demeline has been indicted by a Mahoning County grand jury on charges including 4 counts of rape. He's been booked into the Mahoning County Jail. A passenger is in critical condition after a one-car crash last night. It happened on Route 30 near 172. 67-year-old Richard Benoit was charged with OVI. The passenger was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. The Trumbull County Sanitary Engineer's Office announced a control water service shutdown for Brookfield. It's for emergency repairs. It's planned from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday. From the Power Chevrolet Buick GMC of Calcutta, Ohio newsroom, I'm Dave Price.
We're a country of so many voices, yet some still struggle to be heard. Let your voice be heard. News Radio 570, WKBN.
This weather update brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Temperatures really starting to warm up out there thanks to mostly sunny skies. Highs will top out in the mid to upper 80s, and then there will be some chances for showers and storms later on this afternoon, but really overnight. From the Storm Team 27 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Adam Clayton.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. If you've enjoyed our incredible public lands throughout the country this summer, show some love for these spaces and participate in a volunteer cleanup event on National Public Lands Day in your area. National Public Lands Day is the nation's largest single-day volunteer event for public lands and is on September 24th. Learn more and find an event near you at nefusa.org/NPLD. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hey, you! Do you like sports? Of course you do. But how much do you actually know about the history of sports in this country? If you're not 100% sure about that, check out the new podcast, The Untold History of Sports in America, presented by One Day University. This podcast celebrates the ceremony and examines the controversial storylines around sports in America. Listen to The Untold History of Sports in America from One Day University on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. I am Joe Daniel, your host, local entrepreneur, big advocate for small businesses, business in the city, entrepreneurs. We need more capitalists, and that's really what it is. And so I need more of you to get off the sidelines and embark on one of your passions. Pick something that you think you could do really well at and get started. Get out there and small scale it. See if you can get some customers lined up, a business plan put together, a whiteboard with all of your ideas, and see if you can get something started for yourself, even if it's simply as a side hustle, a couple hours a week, to see if you, and your passion pursuits will never be like your going to work pursuits. It'll feel a little different. Hours will slide by a little bit easier, and you'll be more engaged in and care about the outcome a little bit more, and it'll change your brain a little bit. I'm going over some of the top 10 reasons for small business failure and giving you commentary. We are on number 4, and so let me share that with you right now. Underestimating administrative tasks. And this might be a foreign concept to most of you. If you've worked in a job, you know that most of what's expected from you for a job is is a process that you follow. You have a lunch process, you have a clock in process, you have take a break process, you have filing a work order process, printing a receipt, all of those things. Someone decided that there's a workflow that goes through so that people above you and people below you can can feed you information or be fed from information to you. And it's all uniform. Very few people just wing it and do whatever they feel like, because it's hard to get multiple people to work together on a similar cause. The same exists in your business. If you are making it up, right, and you're doing it all, that is a problem, because it creates, you have more efficiency when it's just you. And so you're doing everything in your head, but you can never have anybody help you because your systems only exist in your head. Nobody could do it as fast as you. Nobody could do it as strong as you. And so creating processes, even when it's only you, is really important. And I'm talking like spreadsheets and how you pay things and how you budget things, how marketing expenses. I have, think of an abstract envelope system where I have a percentage of every dollar that comes into company where it's allocated to. So my marketing budget gets figured out in a 20% of all revenues that come in. So snapshot, you get to the end of the day or the end of the week, you make all of your deposits, you take 20% after you take all of that out of the expenses out of that, you have a remainder, and of that remainder, you take 20% and you slide that amount into what you can spend for marketing. That then gives you a 5-to-1 result, and then it programs the inflow on the up top side of your pipeline, right? So you have these processes that feed other processes, and even if it's just you got to be get a good handle on creating these processes anyway, or else it's always just going to be you. And I will, it's one of the most rewarding things to get a business started. To get trapped and held hostage by your idea is the worst thing. I've had people cry at my conference table because of that. No other reason. I mean, financial struggle all over the place, but crying happens there because of that. I can't leave. I can't go on vacation. I can't spend time with my family. The most stressful thing is when you're held hostage by your own business. Number 3 of the top 10 reasons why businesses fail: refusal to pivot. And I will tell you, the last 3 years has been nothing. All of your friends in this marketplace, in this area, phenomenal amount of pivoting over the last 3 years. So what happens? We are like little speedboats, right? And when the conditions change, we have to change the heading, change the speed, brake, add speed, change headings, go in a different direction. That's a pivot. Think of the small, nimble speedboat is what we are as small business owners. So when we see a change happening, so let's just say, I'll give you a good one. Most of 90% of the business that came through Youngstown Computer were viruses and spyware infections, right? And so I pictured on a pretty regular basis, what would I do if one day Microsoft came out with a patch that made viruses and spyware almost ineffective? Overnight, 90% of my business would go away. The other 10% would have to carry the entire franchise flag, right? And so then I go into a planning phase. Now, I have hypotheticals for just about every potential thing that could ever happen. And all I do is when that thing happens, I pull out the envelope that has that on there and I take a 90-degree right angle in that direction almost immediately, because I can pivot back if I need to, but I can pivot away on a moment's notice so long that I go through it. A lot of entrepreneurs will not pivot. Okay. It's almost like the gambler's fallacy of like, since so much time you're due, right? It's you're due. Well, business doesn't work that way. You could be in a failing sector and it never comes around. So you have to follow the customer. You have to follow the demand. You have to follow, let's just say you sell something and all of a sudden the industry drops out of something you sell. You can't even get it. What are you going to do? Sit around and wait for it to come back and just complain? Or you're going to find something else to invest your time in. That's something that you can get done. So we're working with Valley Curbside Cleaning. It's one of our portfolio companies. And they're a seasonal business. They clean trash bins. And they also can use their little pressure washing wands to, clean driveways and clean, siding. And so what happens is if you have your bin cleaning, if you see a little lull in your schedule where you don't have enough trash bin cleaning, or if it hasn't been hot, so stinky trash bins aren't a thing, then you can go and pivot into the other thing. But you already have that known ahead of time that if you see 30 days from now, it looks like the weather's going to turn a little bit colder, then you can get into the, siding thing right away. So real world example of somebody who's able to pivot. Now, let's just say you don't have the magic envelope where you don't know, but you see conditions change to the point where it's going to change your sales and it's going to, you're going to lose some momentum in a certain direction. You have to be able to pivot in the blind just as much as you pivot with some kind of plan that you had ahead of time. But you have to do it before it gets you to the point of no return. If you run yourself out, if you suffocate yourself out, then when it's time to pivot, you don't have the resources to be able to pivot appropriately. So you got to do it soon enough before you can't anymore. The next one is lack of data. So these are the top 10 reasons. Number 2 is lack of data. And entrepreneurs create these little environments where they get stuck in, where they see what they're working on, but they don't pop their head out very often and look at the outside world. And so a lot of times conditions are changing, but because they're not connected with what's happening on the outside, they're starving themselves from data. And so, that trapped person who's trying to wear too many hats. Well, this is one of the reasons when you wear too many hats, what one of the repercussions are is that you don't know stuff that if you would have known, you could have made adjustments and changes. And the number one reason why small businesses fail, poor management. And this is an administrator who's doing a poor job being a leader of an enterprise because they probably, and this is what I've seen over the years, is that they're too busy to manage the company. They spend more time in their company than on their company. And so they are the manager that never shows up for work. And so it's not a surprise that mismanagement is what is the biggest cancer on small businesses, because if you budget these things out, you'll know where you need to spend time and how much time would be appropriate. If you're too thin, where you're just doing all production work and you're letting your marketing slip, and you're letting your R&D slip, you're letting your hiring slip, you're letting your data collection slip, and you have no processes, that makes you a poor manager, and that's number one. So the ratio is about 20% of small businesses that get out in the real world fail within the first couple years of being out there. I'm sorry, 80% fail, 20% succeed. So a lot of you listening to this will try something and it won't work out, and you'll head the other direction. And that's been part of the math as long as I've been alive. And so it's not that it's not that, okay, so in this, I want to take some of the bad parts of this way. When you have a failure in business, it is not a intellectual reflection or a personal reflection. Failure does not mean that you are an inadequate human being. And if you talk to anybody who's done multiple businesses, chances are we have failures within our portfolio that we will be glad to tell you about and share with you. And a lot of what I do is I will extinguish a business idea. I'll pause it, right? If it looks like it's going down that, 80% failure rate, either now's not the right time, I don't have enough money really to do it right, I don't have access to customers like I thought I did, or the vendors, I don't have access to materials or resources, something when I start going, I can pull the plug on it and put it back on the shelf because I'm not trying to make a living out of that one. I'm hatching 10 a month, right? So I can see that it's not like perfect from the very beginning. So my failures aren't really even failures. They're just misfires. Like they're just, okay, see what this is going, oh, nope, not time yet. And I hit the pause button. Now, if you're taking a side hustle, like you're going to breathe a little ego into it as well. You're going to tell your friends about it and you're going to say it publicly. So when that one fizzles, right, everybody is going to ask you every time they see you, how's your business doing? And then it becomes an issue where you're a little embarrassed. If I even said some of the businesses that I misfired, none of you would even know I was working on those. Because remember, I'm like nursing them in the background before I'm bringing them to the public side, because I got a lot of stuff to say to the public. I can't bring companies that haven't been proven out and have people buy into something that I'm not even sure of yet. So I have the luxury of being able to keep some of the things I do really on the DL, really private, until I know that now's the right time, where a lot of you probably get a little excited about it and make it a little bit too public, so that when you're one of the 80% that go down in flames, it's a little embarrassing. But I'll tell you, like, it is so likely that you are going to have a problem inside your business. I would not take it as, I want to breathe a little bit of confidence back in you, but that you are right. I have more failures than you. Okay. And most of the business owners, we have more failures than you. If you've only tried once, we're going to laugh and chuckle inside. We're going to say, oh, that's so cute. Right. Because you haven't even got started yet. So I want to tell you that if you've never tried it, I want to inspire you to get off the sidelines. And if you've already tried it and had a bad experience, I still want you to get off the sidelines, but this time stand up a little bit closer to me and let me help you a little bit. Don't get a little ahead of yourself. Don't get impatient. Don't get gambling. Don't get in the gambling mindset. Don't, get too ahead, or don't get too behind. Don't drag your feet either. Have a very limited amount of people that the early adopters, those people that will be encouraging from the very beginning, no matter what. Now, especially if you're, 20-year-old, entrepreneurs are my absolute favorite, because they are fearless. They don't even know what they don't know, but they are fearless. You don't have to talk them into anything. You're like, hey, dive off that cliff. And they're like, okay, as long as it's, slightly connected to what I'm doing, I'll do it. But you get an older crowd that's established and they've got bills and they've got family. You can make the slightest unrisky suggestion and they're going to go into a contemplation huddle, right? Whereas 20-year-old would have already dove 5 times. The older group would consider it a little bit more. So it has to be more perfect. So it's harder for me to get a 40-year-old to go out there and take a little bit of risk publicly in front of the people they care about than a 20-year-old who says, who cares, right? And it could be exactly the same monetary risk. The 40-year-old actually could stomach the risk and do it better than the 20-year-old, but the 20-year-old's got the advantage because they're so willing to just get in and not overthink it. And so those are my top 10 reasons. Again, if my goal is, and somebody sat down, I forget who it was this week, and asked me, like, what is Joe Danier trying to do? Like, what's my goal with all of this? Like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And I said, you know what? I got really upset maybe 10 years ago when we had an event that was really under attended. We had a big event that came to one of our, not mine personally, but one in Youngstown. And I wanted to find out, like, this was a perfect event. And I don't understand why nobody went to see it. And so I reverse engineered it, and I found that the way that things are set up, it is too hard, right, to do an event. Events should be easy. You should have a bunch of people like to do stuff, and the minute that it's announced, everybody rushes in and they buy tickets and they go sold out. Like, that's how it should be, right? Why is it so hard? So I wanted to be, and this is a metaphor, I wanted to be a promoter's dream. I wanted to have all things be made easier. I want sales to be easier. I want prosperity to be easier. I want education to be easier. I want jobs to be easier. Everything is difficult because it's all done analog, right? And I want to make things easier by going more metaphorically digital. And I got to break some of the molds. I got to make some uncomfort happen. But I'm assembling a group of, my first group is my first 10 millionaires. And these are people who I can grab by the head, shake all the money off of them, shake all of the opportunity off them, put them on a deserted island, and they'll become a millionaire again. You cannot take away from them what they have. They can always create value no matter where they go. So I'm going to assemble these 10 people, and I am going to teach people how to pursue wealth. And that is, so when I was asked that question, like, what am I doing? I want to be a promoter's dream. I want anybody to be able to walk into this city that does business, and I want this city so recognizing the profile of small business and how to support your neighbor who's, your guy, the people who live in your own neighborhood are the ones going to be wielding this business. I want all of them to stand up and put these great products together. So if given a choice, I can buy from all small business. I don't have to shop franchises, nothing against franchises, but they don't need my help. And shopping any corporate, I can just swear off corporate and franchises and just deal solely with small business. And all of those people will get the same amount of attention. There's plenty to go around. And I just want to see your neighbor who can pivot and knows the community and cares and sponsors softball, fields. I want those people more instrumental. So I want the public to support business, and I want the business to reciprocate and support the public. And then you really do have this, your valley, the people in your community are the people that are serving you. And then you're just as eager about supporting them. And it's not transactional, because transactional means we don't care about the person on the other side of the transaction, right? All we care about is the dollar. And when it's that, then, if somebody's driving your neighborhood delivering food, do you want your neighbor to make a lot of money? Or do you want the lowest amount possible to have your food delivered? And that's the quandary there is, I want us to all collectively be, searching down total prosperity and teaching people, I'm talking even from kids, to not just get people ready to go and get jobs for somebody, but I want entrepreneurs to pop out of these schools and be ready to solve some big problems and chase down that same prosperity. And, that brain drain, as we like to say, is a real thing. And it's a shame, because we've got some really smart kids who don't see our valley as a competitive place to raise their family. And that sucks. So that was my response, is I want our kids to stay here. I want our home values to go up. I want prosperity to be something that not only is just a pipe dream. It doesn't feel like a pipe dream. It's like achievable for everyone. The information to get there is available to everyone, courtesy of everybody in your community that cares and wants to also see you get there. So 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Nike does him. His GPS asks him for directions.
Dan Rivers, Monday through Friday at 9, News Radio 570 WKBN.
Spruce up your home this summer with innovative replacement windows and doors from Pella. Pella has the products for any style at any budget just for you.
The Pella windows they scream quality. You look at them, they're beautiful. And there's so many different options for what you need in your house.
Get Pella now and pay nothing for 12 months, or take $150 off windows, $500 off patio doors. Call 877-98-PELLA or visit PellaYoungstown.com.
Are you tired of gas prices? Try GoHio Commute for free. On-demand transportation. GoHio Commute offers an interactive platform to save money, improve your health, and enhance our air quality without interrupting your daily routine. Learn more at GoHioCommute.com.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. I am Joe Danier, your host. Talk about things in business and with entrepreneurs. So this question says, I've been struggling lately. I started a fire alarm company, and it's been successful over the last year, but I'm super anxious and stressed about whether or not I can keep this growth rate going. I don't have much flexibility. I'm working a ton of hours. How would you handle the balance between being a company owner and also having a life outside of being a company owner? I'm super stressed. Okay. All right. So you've just illustrated the plight of pretty much every small business owner that I've ever met. And there is a way of doing it. In fact, I decided after the first couple years of doing that struggle that you are, where I had success and the money was good, but I was never had time to do anything else. And so I can almost guarantee you in the beginning phases, you're always going to sacrifice some of that free time, but it cannot be a permanent fixture, because nobody will or can pull that off. So the deal is that, remember, you are working about 6 jobs when you are a sole operator, which means 5 of those jobs needs to be peeled off. As soon as you start getting successful, know that extra money that's coming in should be peeled off and hire someone to do those jobs. You're living a fantasy. You're doing those jobs and being 5 employees, but you're not doing it. You're not liking it. It's stressing you out, and you're going to break. So the extra money that you're having is not real. That money should find its way into the pockets of somebody who can take 1/5 of those jobs away from you one at a time. So if you had a lot of success, then you need to say, okay, what's the biggest, the one I'm worst at, the one that's, that I would love to give this one away first, go out the marketplace and hand that off, whether or not you just find a service company that takes it off, like accounting or some kind of professional services, or you hire someone. You've got 5 in you. I would say in my world, I probably have only kept 2 of them. I really like marketing, so I've kept on with the being the director of marketing, and then I do the executive work and planning that way. So I'm 2 of those roles, and probably one of those, the marketing director, would be the next one that when I have someone internally, they'll probably take that one on, and I'll just be an executive over all operations. But in the short term, I was practitioner. I was in the field every day. I was doing accounting work. I was doing marketing. I was doing all the things that you're doing. And the first one I did was in the field. I took the practice of doing the production work, and I found someone to go tandem with. So I could work if I wanted to, but if I didn't work, the money would still be coming in. And so that I kept doing production was the first one. Second one was all of the accounting, all of the numbers work I wanted nothing to do with. I knew anybody was better than myself. I could do spreadsheets and I could look at it, right? But I did not want to, that was not where I wanted to spend all of my days. I'm terribly inefficient with it. It takes me too long where I can formulate what the process should be. I want someone with skill set to be able to take those things after the fact. And like I said, keep parsing that off. And you might find once you get down to it and you segment the 5 jobs into 5 different people, that maybe one of those jobs that you're playing out pays about 1/5 of what you're experiencing right now. That will probably be pretty acceptable, and that will be the most authentic division of those resources. But you got to decide, either you're going to be 5 people and you're going to suffer, or you're going to create smaller groups that you farm out to other people so you can get your sanity back. You can have a lifestyle, you have a family, and do all those other things. You can even start other businesses if you get to that point. But it's one of the hardest asks that I have for small businesses is that for, we had this one group of guys who they suffered for 3 years with making no money whatsoever. They were investing every dime back into their company. And so the first year that they started actually drawing a paycheck, they started getting successful, they started getting orders, and then they had to hire somebody. So all of the money that and they weren't cutting themselves very big checks, right? And so the first person that was going to come through the door was going to have a guaranteed paycheck, and they were going to get less when they just started taking that check. Now you fast forward and it all ended up working out, but the catalyst was that they had to make nothing and then make a little bit and then risk making nothing again so that they can make more. And that's the ask, because I have to say, hey, you know what? I know you're holding on by a thread, and your family's probably on you to make a little bit more money, but here's the deal. We're going to hire somebody, so you have to work less, right? And you could take on different tasks, but let's cut your paycheck in half. And you got to take that message home to the family and sell it somehow. And I don't know how they did, because it's a bad sell, but thankfully families were supportive and they said, yay. The employees got hired, or the help got put in there, and eventually they became a acquisition target, and then they were able to sell and get out. But that's, like I said, that it happens often enough that you're in a boat with, probably thousands of other small business owners. But I need you to keep practicing. We need your mind. We need your ability to find success. We need you to coach other people who are just getting started. And so, yes, you still have a ways to come to develop so that your position gets in better shape and more comfortable, but we know you've got the mind for it, and I need you to hang in there. So thank you for that question. I appreciate it. All right. So what we'll do is we will take this break, and then we'll come back for the Youngstown Computer Show over on the stream on Facebook. Stand by. We'll keep that stream going, and we'll just switch right over to Youngstown Computer Show. And that in the audience, if you guys want to call the Computer Show, 330-729-9977, or you could text me at 333-1570. We'll be right back.
Friends, this is Congressman Bill Johnson. I'm answering some questions from the people I represent.
Congressman Johnson, I'm a veteran. I served my country, but now I find dealing with the VA on healthcare difficult and burdensome.
I get it. First, thanks for your service. I'm proud of my own Air Force service, and it helps guide what I do. I've made fighting to improve services for our veterans a priority since day one. We passed the VA Mission Act to expand veterans' health care access. It's important that veterans have the choice to seek local options for care, rather than having to travel longer distances or deal with greater wait times for appointments at VA facilities. I'm also committed to helping everyone navigate the Washington bureaucracy, whether it's the VA, Social Security, passports, IRS, or another federal agency. Visit billjohnson.house.gov to learn more about what I'm doing for Eastern and Southeastern Ohio and to get help if you need assistance. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Studios. Available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now, #1 for podcasting. 570 WKBN, Youngstown.
From ABC News, I'm Mark Remillard. Another round of military aid set to head to Ukraine. The U.S. has announced a further $775 million in military assistance to the country.
This is one of the biggest military aid packages yet. $775 million in new military equipment being sent from the U.S. to Ukraine. It includes a slew of new weapons. This is drones, this is howitzers, armored vehicles, 1,000 javelins, and even more missiles for the rocket systems called HIMARS, which are having a big impact against Russian forces.
That's ABC's M. Wynn. This aid package, along with another $550 million package earlier this month, bring the total amount of U.S. assistance to Ukraine to over $10 billion. Vice President Mike Pence making a visit to Iowa, sure to raise questions about whether he's eyeing a potential presidential run. While there, Pence was asked about whether he took any classified information with him when he left office, to which Pence said not to his knowledge. The disclosure comes as former President Trump faces a federal investigation into his alleged possession of state nuclear secrets that were taken to his Florida home after he left office and recovered in a search earlier this month. The CEO who made headlines in 2015 when he announced that he was slashing his $1 million salary to $70,000 and that he would pay all of his employees the same, has announced his resignation. Dan Price's resignation from Gravity Payments comes amid sexual assault allegations.
Dan Price stepping down, saying his presence has become a distraction. Allegations of physical and sexual assault detailed this week in a New York Times article. The paper reporting it spoke to more than a dozen women who described predatory encounters with Price, who not only denies the allegations, but posted on Twitter, "I also need to step aside from these duties to focus full time on fighting false accusations made against me."
That's ABC's Phil Lipoff. You're listening to ABC News.
Bail was set at $100,000 for a man facing several charges, including 2 counts of rape. 23-year-old Jack Ryan Ziegler is facing a total of 6 charges. Reports say police found that he was giving gift cards to 2 boys in return for sexual encounters. The alleged crimes happened back in July of 2020. Ziegler was booked into the Trumbull County Jail. Girard police say the investigation is still ongoing. Within the next 30 days, more roads and intersections will close in downtown Youngstown. Currently, 3 roads are under construction as part of the Smart 2 project. Boardman Street, Commerce Street, and Front Street are being worked on, but soon construction will begin on Federal Street. All 4 of those roads will be closed once they begin the paving process, which should take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. 34-year-old Martin Demeline has been indicted by a Mahoney County grand jury on charges including 4 counts of rape. The indictment alleges he raped and otherwise sexually assaulted a child younger than 13 at the time of some of the alleged offenses between late 2019 and as recently as this past June. He's in the Mahoney County Jail. A passenger is in critical condition after a 1-car crash last night that happened on Route 30 near 172. The State Highway Patrol says 67-year-old Richard Benoit was charged with OVI after a car he was driving went off the left side of the road, striking a mailbox and trees, coming to rest in a ditch. A passenger had to be extracted from the vehicle and taken to Mercy Hospital in Youngstown with life-threatening injuries. A Beaver Township road closure has been extended. Garfield Road will remain closed between Green Beaver Road and Washingtonville Road for culvert replacement. It's extended through August 25th. And the Trumbull County Sanitary Engineer's Office announced a controlled water service shutdown for Brookfield. The shutdown will be for emergency repairs. It's planned from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday. From the Power Chevrolet Buick GMC of Calcutta, Ohio newsroom, I'm Dave Price.
News Radio 570 WKBN, Youngstown.
This weather update brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Temperatures really starting to warm up out there thanks to mostly sunny skies. Highs will top out in the mid to upper 80s, and then there will be some chances for showers and storms later on this afternoon, but really overnight, From the Storm Team 27 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Adam Clayton.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. If you've enjoyed our incredible public lands throughout the country this summer, show some love for these spaces and volunteer on National Public Lands Day. It's the nation's largest single-day volunteer event for public lands and is on September 24th. Learn more and find an event near you at nefusa.org/NPLD. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride from pandemic to inflation. I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you're eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you the money. Our tax attorneys are specialists in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. The team at GetRefunds.com has already returned over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help you too. Just go to GetRefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. That's GetRefunds.com. No risk, high reward. GetRefunds.com.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show, running for over a decade here on 570 WKBN. We talk about things in tech and answer any questions that anyone might have in the audience. Goal with this show is always to give a place that we openly talk about the concepts of technology to help those of you who are just getting involved to kind of warm up into it. It's kind of helpful to hear the verbiage and hear the context of that verbiage, and you kind of get to know technology a little bit through oration rather than being around it and watching it. Everything's on the table for this program. So if you want to talk about computers, hardware, software, technology, physics, time travel, space travel, any of that stuff, I'm all interested in. One of the first topics I'm going to hit is the car care guys were talking about electric vehicles. So I wanted to add a little bit to what they were talking about. Let's see what this. There was a business question from the last one. Hey Joe, my son Tom really wants to own his business, but the extent of his business plan was getting $20,000 to use equipment and telling a few people that he can weld anything to the highest standard. That's true. He's educated and certified, but his only jobs have been from acquaintances. I tell him, you have to have a business plan. How do you make a business plan? Please tell. So let me interrupt the computer show to go back and answer this question. So business plan, if you just Google business plan template, you can get some more corporatized or commercialized version of a business plan. But a business plan is basically taking all the features and role playing your way through how the business is going to operate from, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, and how it functions, where the money comes from, how much you charge, who your customers are, how you do your marketing. And so you're just planning everything out by putting like what the principles of each department are. So I want this to happen. I want that to happen. So that usually the first paragraph is product based. So I'm going to be selling a service or product, and here is how it affects the people. Here's why it's a value to the marketplace. So you're selling me first on what it is that you're going to do for a living. So in his case, it would be that his skill with being able to weld things. And then the rest of the business plan is assembling the who, what, when, where, and how through that. But if you'd like to have a template, just Google business plan template and you can fill in those details. But that is crucial in getting a new endeavor started, is to properly plan it out. And that way, if there are any holes in the plan, you know it before you start spending real money into it. So hope that helps. 330-729-9977. So the car care guys were talking about electric vehicles. And I want to tell you that all of the things that they had said, if you listen this morning, they were 100% reasonable. In fact, most of the things that have said about electric vehicles have been a reasonable concern. And so let me take a couple of those and we'll go through it. And I am an advocate for new technologies. I love innovation, but we're not going to stamp something that is subpar or inadequate or not practical just for the sake of innovation. It's got to do both. And where you have an emerging technology, usually what happens is when it's in the, early stages, you have more people that are against it than for it. And if it survives the scrutiny of that first level and it graduates into that second level, then you get a little bit more acceptance, you get a little less pushback on it. And then that's the way these things mature into our culture. But there are big implications to some of these innovation. So just like, we talk about Facebook and how Facebook has the ability to either stifle discourse, right, or mitigate bad discourse. And so it has a real world implication. And when it's new, where we were used to going to places and shaking hands and in person and then talking on the phone, and then now we're doing that virtually. If you were to discuss whether or not that was a good idea prior to it, you'd have a lot of pushback saying, oh, this is going to happen and nobody's going to like this. And this is where this is going to lead. And you'd have all these same things. So that's why I said it's reasonable, because that's what human nature does. We take new stuff and we scrutinize it, and that's healthy part of it. So the car gear guys this morning, we're talking about, number one, the infrastructure. It's probably one of the least practical, explanations, because do we have, if everybody switched into electric cars, we'd be crippled. It's not a one size fits all. It's not for everybody. We couldn't even do it if we wanted to. And what's nice about this is that it's happening slowly. We're talking about single-digit percentage of electric vehicles, and every year on a percentage basis, we're just adding single digits more into it. So we have lots of time to be able to adapt into having more electricity. Now, let me give you some of the arguments. So, are electric vehicles going to put a strain on the electrical grid? The answer is yes. You have my car is running off a 220 line. It's using 32 amps. And I charge it for probably 3 hours a night. So if you multiply that out, you can see how many watts I'm using over the course of a couple hours to charge. Now, that's me who is driving 100 plus miles per day. Most people, the average person, drives 24 miles per day, which means if I was charging at 22 volts, 32 amps, I would be able to add 25 miles of range per hour into that system. So I'd only really be charging for 1 hour per night. So for the most part, it's not, when those cars are plugged in, they are not charging at their full wattage the whole time, right? And so if I wanted to make my car charge at 3 o'clock in the morning, the government says, hey, you know what? 3 o'clock in the morning is a low point. We're not, businesses aren't using it. Industry's not using it. Hey, there's some free space over there. So I charge my car at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's fully charged by 6 o'clock. And you set this in a car, by the way. And so I'm consuming it when the grid is most able to handle the extra output. Now, again, if it's me, if it's regular people, you're not even going to notice it, honestly, because they're only going to be plugged in an hour when they get home from work, and then they're done by 6 o'clock and on to the next day. Second thing is the travel. Travel sucks, right? I can, if I travel, like when to Pittsburgh, it's 100 miles there, 100 miles back. It's within my range. I don't have to charge, no problem. But if you draw a 100-mile ring around where I am, that's my non-annoying travel in that car. And so anything beyond that 100, then I have to line up some kind of charging station to give me some extra range as I'm going. And that could take 45 minutes, right? We went out to Mansfield prison for the ghost hunt, and I was going to drive my electric car there. And so I went out to the map and I saw how many miles it was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's going to slide right in there under, being able to do it with one. But if I'm a little low, if I drive a little too fast or whatever, I might want to stop, plug it in for a couple minutes while I'm getting some drinks or whatever, using the restroom, and then hail out of there, because it charges a lot in 10 minutes. And so, if I were to do that in an ICE vehicle, it would have been the same deal. I'd show up in Mansfield and I'd probably top off, and it would be every bit of 5 minutes. I'm going to spend the same 5 minutes and just top off by electricity. And that's more typical. Now, when I traveled to Atlantic City and New York City in the electric vehicle, it sucked. There were 3 charges, and I added probably an hour and 20 minutes onto my travel on the way there and the way back. And it just added too much time to that. So it's not a practical travel vehicle. You can do it for small stints where maybe one charge is okay, but you're not going to want to stop at multiple charging locations and add full hours or full days to the end. That's just not a very good deal. So in the end, it needs to get beyond this 250 miles of range if it's going to be used for traveling vehicles, or else I'll just have a gas vehicle for all of my traveling. But as for as often as I travel, large distances when I'm not in my motorhome, it might not ever happen ever again. And so I'd much rather an industry weave its way around the normal rather than the exception. Let people buy cars that do their thing. So if you're a contractor and want to buy a pickup truck that has a nice vehicle, cool. And if there's an innovative thing that's better for people who drive 25 miles, cool. I think it should all exist. Now there was the environmental implications they brought up about what goes into like the batteries and the pollution and the plastics and whatever. And I've never really looked at electric vehicles as I've never looked at it as something where we're going, it was an improvement in environmental stuff. So again, there's going to be some data on the other side. We'll know at the end if it ended up being a net positive or not. I'm just unsure, because the indirect methods of creating all of the stuff for the car might be as bad as what the car's exhaust pollution puts out anyhow. So I think it's negligible at best, and it's part of contention. So I'm going to stay out of that until, we end up. Now the battery packs are something yet that needs some help. So in the future, the rare earth metals that go into making these batteries are in short supply at times and hard to get. But I think that we're going to be able to recycle and refine these materials. Tesla, when you buy a battery pack right now as a replacement, it is reconditioned from an older deal. So Elon Musk has said that the battery packs on intake are going to be super valuable. And there are going to be companies vying for spent battery packs in the future because of how valuable they're going to be. I think they said when they first started buying it, it was like $17 a ton. Then it went to like $1,700 a ton. And now it's like $17,000 a ton. So the actual, raw materials that goes into these batteries have just gone up by so much. That's going to force the innovation curve in a different direction, that if a material is too hard to get and it's too expensive, we're going to create something else. It's just going to create a little bit of vacancy for the next innovation. It might be more expensive than what lithium was, but it'll be better or more efficient or have more range. And that's why early on, there are going to be things that aren't quite as good. But hey, I see that it's not like that. I mean, there are some things that I've purchased that were supposedly innovative products, and I had to make so many concessions at the end of the day. I don't feel like there was any real benefit in the purchase other than being involved in, something that was cutting edge, or it was such a bad product on cutting edge, but you were more an investor in the product than you were an actual buying an end product. So that's just my addition to what they were talking about on the car show. Those guys are awesome, by the way. I love listening to them over the years. I've been a talk radio junkie since I was a kid. I started off listening to Ron Verb. I don't believe he was on this station. I think he was still in Akron at the time, but he was my favorite because his job was to just, no matter what, make people mad and get the conversation, blood pressure up on the conversations. And it was so interesting to listen to. And then I got involved with the guys, the Trapper in the morning, and those guys. I'm a big fan of this big fan of this radio station since I was a little kid. So very cool to be involved here and be able to do this with and for you guys. 330-729-9977, or you can text me at 333-1570. I'm open to all topics in and about computers. And if you want to throw anything from the earlier business show, feel free. One more thing about, I want to talk some space travel next, but one more thing about electric cars, the Cybertruck, which is Tesla's, cyberpunk, version of a pickup truck. It's got these stealth bomber like edges. It's kind of a cool. We put our order in for one like a year and a half ago. And I believe next year, 2023, is when production will be ramping up in Austin. So next year, I know a bunch of people that I've talked to in this area have these pre-orders. So you probably should see some Cybertrucks showing up. I've been looking around lately, and there's a ton of Teslas in this area. I wish Tesla would kind of give me some kind of reward for as much as I talk about them. I'm probably one of the best salespeople in Youngstown for Teslas. So, all right. Second thing is I pitched this question earlier on social media. And if, we are, the Artemis project is underway, which means that we're going to be taking a rocket and we're going to be landing on the moon again, hoping to set up some kind of, space station, or not space station, but lunar station, so that we can do launches from the moon and have some kind of presence on, our biggest satellite. And so that opens up a lot of questions. If we're going to be a spacefaring civilization, I guess the first question would be, how do you think human beings are going to do with a couple generations worth of microgravity? Like, how is our bodies going to change? How's our health going to change? Are we going to be able to even do it? Or is our bodies going to withstand it? Like, is this like a barrier where we're not intended to travel around? Our bodies are too delicate. What do you think about whether or not human beings can be a spacefaring civilization with all of our technologies and our willingness and whatever? Once it goes to Mars in a couple, maybe 4 or 5 years, and then once we go outside of our solar system, I mean, we're talking generations down the road that all of this is done. But I'm kind of, thinking about how our bodies, are going to withstand it. Now, second thing is, this is more of a sort of like an activist or political stance on it. There's a lot of people who say if we're spacefaring and there are trillions of trillions of planets that could be inhabitable or probably inhabitable, we have to probably be less concerned about environmental issues if we can escape and move people from planet to planet in the time frame that we're suggesting that we're changing the global temperatures and the ecosystems here on Earth. So how then do we not just go to and hop another planet and then screw up another planet's ecosystem and whatever? So there's got to be a way that we can find out the people that are most at cause for some of these disruptions and figure out a way that we just don't screw up the next planet that we jump to. Anyway, 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Just so we're clear.
But let me be clear.
News.
Here are the facts.
Happens at the top, 30 minutes past, and when it breaks. Everything in between is opinion.
There could not be a bigger difference.
570 WKBN.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-777-1225. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-777-1225. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-777-1225. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-777-1225. 800-777-1225.
Friends, this is Congressman Bill Johnson. I'm answering some questions from the people I represent.
Congressman Johnson, I'm a veteran. I served my country, but now I find dealing with the VA on healthcare difficult and burdensome.
I get it. First, thanks for your service. I'm proud of my own Air Force service, and it helps guide what I do. I've made fighting to improve services for our veterans a priority since day one. We passed the VA Mission Act to expand veterans' health care access. It's important that veterans have the choice to seek local options for care, rather than having to travel longer distances or deal with greater wait times for appointments at VA facilities. I'm also committed to helping everyone navigate the Washington bureaucracy, whether it's the VA, Social Security, passports, IRS, or another federal agency. Visit BillJohnson.house.gov to learn more about what I'm doing for Eastern and Southeastern Ohio and to get help if you need assistance. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Get ready for a stem winder. Donald Trump Jr. will be here for a rally in support of State Representative Mike Wojcik. It's Monday, August 22nd, Eastwood Event Center in Niles. Doors at 6, tickets $40. Donald Trump Jr. in support of Mike Wojcik. Private reception available, seating limited. Complete details MikeLoychik.com. That's Mike, LOYCHIK.com. Paid for by friends of Mike Loychik.
It's summertime at the Honda store in Boardman, and our certified pre-owned inventory has never been better. Come see why a certified Honda will be your best value with powertrain warranty up to 100,000 miles, roadside assistance, extension of the full manufacturer warranty, and 2 complimentary oil changes. Honda Certified is the industry leader. And if you're not in the market for a used car, we are. So bring your car to the Honda store in Boardman today for a free appraisal. Come see why you should be driving a Honda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and this is your Saturday show. You set the tone, you set the topics of what we talk about. I'm here to answer any questions that I can and be as helpful as I possibly can. Phone number for the show is 330-729-9977. Got a couple text messages here, and one says, hello, I just purchased a new computer, and when it arrived, it had nothing on it. Can I pass by your store and get some software installed? Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And Youngstown Computer is actually a, full service, all the services you could think of, whether or not it be installing software, troubleshooting problems, replacing, hardware that might be going bad, installing printers, hooking up Wi-Fi, transferring data is probably the biggest one, and then upgrading some stuff like, faster hard drives for the slow one that came with it. So absolutely, give our office a call, 330-259-7278. And Devin is our main guy over there. He has been rocked with work this last week. I love you guys. It's been amazing to watch us go from a dead schedule on COVID, where I used to take our residential people and try to find stuff for them to do and trainings to do to fill in the gaps, because people were just so sensitive to people coming out to them and being around other people. So we had to really, for a year, 2 years, really operate way below what we should have been operating at, but we kept everybody alive. We kept everybody whole. Now you guys are just coming back in droves to support us, and we totally appreciate all the support from all of you. Again, we've been doing this for a decade. We had a marketing plan that was WKBN and then all of the other media. And guess what happened? We started doing this program and we maxed out. We never had to go in any direction to go do any more marketing than this station. It filled us up to 100% capacity, and we've always been trying to keep up with the demand. So you guys are awesome and have always come through every time that we've asked, and I really appreciate that. And thank you for bringing us back to the brink post-COVID and putting us on the map and always supporting us. We really appreciate it. But yeah, anything you need, and we do appreciate it. There's going to be something in the future that you need a reputable computer company, and we absolutely volunteer to be that for you. Take our number down, 330-259-7278. With that, when that need arises, we'd really appreciate the phone call. All right, let's take some phone calls. 330-729-9977. Let's go with Denny. Denny, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Yeah, I think putting a man back on the moon for a long period of time, or Mars, is ridiculous. But people will always try to generate wealth and money. Then these government agencies like NASA, they'll come up with ideas and they'll present it to the congressman, and they'll say, okay, we need to do this. But they're going to make millions of dollars doing this, and for what? I don't believe in putting human beings on an atmosphere that doesn't have oxygen. But I do believe in satellites, robotic satellites, robotic moon rovers, whatever. I believe in that, but who wants to live in an atmosphere in a space suit? You don't see the sun. It's just ridiculous.
Now, what do you think about space mining, where we send out ships to be able to take these hunks of rock out of that are just floating around, take them down to the surface, and then mine out all the rare metals?
If they could do that robotically to find out if the minerals are there. You could put a robot on the moon, and then you could have it drill it and check the samples and see if it's worth it. I don't know what's a moon rock. I don't know what's in it, but maybe there's a ton of lithium up there, but there's lithium on our planet. Let's keep it with our Earth right now. Let's concentrate on keeping our Earth well and not destroying it. And then, by the way, we now have two proud owners of 2 electric pickups in Rock Creek, but I'm not one of them.
No.
two Rivians. The guy said they're made outside of Chicago. I thought they were made outside of Detroit.
Yeah, and they are beautiful.
Chicago.
I saw a green one driving around Youngstown down here, and they're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, the guy up here has an olive green. I love that color.
Oh, so good.
It's nice. And then there's another one that has a black one. But you can recognize those Rivians with that vertical headlights in the front. They're so odd looking, but they'll have a long vertical headlight on, and that's how you pick it up really quick. But
all right, Danny, thank you so much. I appreciate you being out there. Mike, I see you out there. I'll come back to you from when we get this break. 330-729-9977. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
You won't want to miss the special purchase sale at the Stadium GM Pre-Owned Superstore. It's where you're going to find a great selection of 2018 and 19 Buick Encores starting from just $249 a month with 0 down. You'll also find a great selection of 2019 Chevy Equinox from just $279 a month with 0 down. And if you're looking for luxury, we have the area's best selection of pre-owned Cadillacs. Log on to stadiumgm.com to see it all and fill out a credit app. The store where 0 down delivers every day. The Stadium GM Pre-Owned Superstore in Salem.
Bail was set at $100,000 for a man facing several charges, including 2 counts of rape. 23-year-old Zach Ryan Ziegler is facing a total of 6 charges. He's in the Trumbull County Jail. Within the next 30 days, more roads and intersections will close in downtown Youngstown. It's all part of the Smart 2 project. Boardman Street, Commerce Street, and Front Street are being worked on. Soon, construction will begin on Federal Street. 34-year-old Martin Demeline has been indicted by a Mahoning County grand jury on charges including 4 counts of rape. He's been booked into the Mahoning County Jail. A passenger is in critical condition after a one-car crash last night. It happened on Route 30 near 172. 67-year-old Richard Benoit was charged with OVI. The passenger was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. A Beaver Township road closure has been extended. Garfield Road will remain closed between Green Beaver Road and Washingtonville Road. It's for culvert replacement. It's extended through August 25th. From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Newsroom, drivecolumbiana.com, I'm Dave Price.
And we have breaking news.
Keep up.
Breaking news.
Breaking news with what happens next.
Issue executive orders.
Push through his agenda.
On 570 WKBN.
This weather update brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Temperatures really starting to warm up out there thanks to mostly sunny skies. Highs will top out in the mid to upper 80s, and then there will be some chances for showers and storms later on this afternoon, but really overnight. From the Storm Team 27 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Adam Clayton.
Are you tired of gas prices? Try GoHio Commute for free. On-demand transportation. GoHio Commute offers an interactive platform to save money, improve your health, and enhance our air quality without interrupting your daily routine. Learn more at GoHioCommute.com.
Listen to your engine sound like your car's gonna die. Trade in a Taylor, pick up your key and tell you right. Bring your trade into the Taylor Zone.
Taylor Kia Portland.
It's worth more cash here at the Taylor Zone.
Maverick. Right now, lease the 2022 Kia Telluride LX all-wheel drive for only $439 a month for 36 months with 0 to its signing. Do you copy?
Take the highway to the Taylor Zone. Get your new Kia from the Taylor Zone.
Roger that. Taylor Kia Portland.
Paid for by government.com.
Have you heard? The United States Mint has issued the Morgan Silver Dollar for the first time in 100 years. Not only that, but they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 175,000 legal tender silver dollars were issued. These Morgan Silver Dollars are brand new, bright and shiny legal tender coins minted by the iconic Philadelphia Mint. Just call 1-800-937 937-4707, and you are guaranteed a new 99.9% pure silver Morgan dollar. The first time in history this has happened, but with limited quantities, you must call now to order. To learn more, call 1-800-937-4707. If you order now, you will receive a free collector bonus, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-937-4707 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-937-4707.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show, and we're talking about computers. This is your show, so if you want to call in, 330-729-9977. Denny had called right before that break, and we're talking a little bit about space exploration and whether or not we take the Artemis project to the moon. One thing I'll mention, one of the benefits of setting up something on the moon is the most expensive part of space travel and rocketry is escaping Earth's gravitational pull. An immense amount of fuel is burned just to escape that, where the moon at less gravity means less fuel to burn to launch. So a lot of our spacefaring stuff could then be directed at moon rather than the Earth. And so I want to mention that. 330-729-9977. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Donnie, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very well, very well. I've been working on my computer here. I have to tell you, I believe my Microsoft Edge may have crashed. Now, my computer is about 5 years old. One thing came up and said that it's not servicing those files anymore. Did Microsoft, do I have to get a new computer? Because now it's affecting my Google. Now, my Google stopped working too. That's what I use to go on the internet. What options do I have? Or, there's some stuff I want to save also, like my taxes for the last 5 years, because I filed taxes online.
Right.
And I don't want to lose all that information. What do you suggest?
So Edge is basically a browser. Your easiest way, if there's something wrong with Edge and you don't want to go back and run a repair on the operating system, you can download one of the other browsers that you could start using, like Chrome or Firefox, one of those. And if you can get one of those working, then you can kind of just like hit the pause button on Edge. Now, what concerns me is what happened to Edge. It doesn't happen all that often where Edge gets corrupt. So there might be something that's a bigger problem, and that's just the first symptom that, has shown itself. So I would probably do that in the short term, download Google Chrome, get the installer file off maybe another computer, put it on flash drive, and then load it. And then you'll have access to at least a browser. After that, you might want to have someone, maybe not yourself, but you might want to have someone run a refresh on the operating system, which basically it runs the setup files over top of the other files. And if there's any changes in core system files, it'll rewrite those and sometimes able to repair Edge. So I would replace the browser first, so that's a lot easier.
Okay. Now, I do have another browser, and it's Chrome. It's Google Chrome, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started using that one because I had it on my computer anyway. I had downloaded it. It stopped working. Every time I click on it, it go right back to the original screen. It'll stop working, freeze, and then back to my home screen. What I get when I start up the computer. So now I'm having problems with both of them.
Yeah, I have a feeling, like I said, that there might be something wrong, maybe even with the networking side, the network card, or what gets you to the internet. It might be time. I mean, if you're ready to replace it, then I wouldn't worry about it. This would be a good exit time on that one if you're ready to get a new computer anyhow. But if you want to hang on to this for a little bit longer, get it into a shop and have someone take a look at it and see if they can find the origin of what's causing your browsers not to get to the internet. Maybe they can fix it and get you a couple years out of it.
Okay, great. I'll take that into consideration, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to listen, and you're doing a great job, and trying to keep you back on Earth, though.
There you go. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being out there. And if anybody has a problem on with your computer, with software or hardware, you can call the number 330-259-7278. Schedule an appointment. You can also visit youngstowncomputer.com, schedule an appointment for yourself as well. It's been one of those things where you don't need us as often as you used to, which is a good thing, actually. When we were in that cycle of everybody was having their computers, infected, like you would have to come and see a computer shop like once a year. So much of your technology budget was being spent on repairing what you already had. And now you can invest in things that make your life a little bit better or the experience a little bit better. Take the same money, but instead of always repairing things, get into some new territories. But when these things aren't functioning well, it is so frustrating. So, Mike, I appreciate the phone call. And if anyone, there's a couple of things that you can do. If you go into the control panel of a Windows 10 or 11 machine, you can run restoration, right? You can restore the computer, and it's not going to restore all of your programs or your data. It's going to restore some of the system files back, and it's probably the least intrusive way to correct some system operating system files without having to reload or get a new machine. So thank you for that call. Appreciate it. If anybody else wants to get online, 330-259-9977. And this text message says, thank you, Joe. You rock. You are very welcome. I'm glad to have you guys out there. This texter says, keep up the great work, Joe. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being out there as well. And let's see, both browsers not working probably sounds like RAM issues. It totally could be. And that's why I said you're going to have a rabbit hole that's going to lead you down to the origin. So because it's not something that breaks on its own without a little bit of help, it's going to be something like, like this text messenger said that, RAM might be going bad. So a portion of the browser might got corrupted or damaged, and then you might fix it and repair it. But then 2 months later, it gets damaged again because a bad chip is contributing to it going bad. Eventually, one of the things I think is more likely than not to happen is that software is going to get a lot more self-repairing. And so there won't be these constant pursuits. Like if you remember, I used to have to reload my Windows XP machine like every year. And that was annoying. It was just a part of owning XP, is if you did stuff, it was going to break in little tiny, fractional ways. But then on the aggregate, every once in a while, you're going to have to reload. And it was just annoying. And then Windows 7 came along, and that got a little bit better. Since I went to Windows 10, I haven't had to reload anything. Now, my computer usage has gotten way more boring than it has in previous years. I'm not uninstalling and reinstalling programs. Most of everything that I do is either through my browser, which I have Chrome open with about 562 tabs, or I have a Photoshop instance open, I have Audacity opened, or I have Sony Movie Maker open. So I'm either cutting video, cutting audio, or making graphics, or I'm on the internet checking email or doing mind-numbing social media stuff. And so, again, if you compare that to what I used to be doing, maybe I used to slide some gaming in there, or maybe I would do more applications, individual applications, but I'm very, very rarely install. Most of my workstations are so much dumb terminals. There's not anything on that machine that makes it unique. I could go to my office and do the same stuff that I can from my workstation. I love that about modern computing, is that the cloud, where we talked about it in this more cliche way, the cloud becomes my stuff, but where it's situated doesn't really matter. It's just accessible because it's part of the broader internet. And I like that we're just taking that part for granted and just building that in, because I did this the other day too. I had a bunch of audio recordings on one of my phones, and I was going to do some editing. So I had to get the audio recordings down to my editing computer. Well, both computers connect into OneDrive. And so I went into the audio and I hit share, and I tapped on OneDrive and I uploaded it. And then I went to the other computer and I went to OneDrive and I downloaded it. And I was like, wow, like both of these use the cloud the way that everyone who described the early cloud to me imagined it would be. A wireless cable, right? A cable that connected my phone and my desktop computer that made it almost instant that I sent something from my phone. Now, I could have sent it through an email and downloaded the email just as easy, but that common folder is how I'm framing it. It's like a local network folder that was accessible. And if I put my stuff there, then I have it no matter where. So I use that with Dropbox. I use that with Google Drive, and I use that with OneDrive. Those are the big three. They're all connected to my phone. Each one of them are fairly, they're fairly cheap. I think I pay maybe $9 a month for, for Dropbox. I pay nothing for OneDrive. It's just part of my Microsoft account, and then Google Drive is free as well with my Google and Gmail account. So for $10 a month, I have access to all three of those things with a bunch of data storage, and it makes it so the cloud is actually how it, was suggested doing. We were just working on a company's backup system. So cloud backup. So we basically have three legs of a backup system. You have the original copy, you have a duplicate local, and then you have a duplicate cloud. If you have all three of those, you're in pretty good shape. And so in this company, we have a local external hard drive. So the database dumps out on a local hard drive. Then we take that local hard drive and put it on an external hard drive. And then we take that external hard drive and we put it out on the cloud. And over the years, that gets considerably larger and larger and larger. So I think the current file size is like 720 gigabytes. So external drive, that's fine. You buy a 1 terabyte drive, and that's plenty of space to do a 700 gig backup. But when you're talking about backing that much data up over the cloud, if you watch to see how long that takes, that's a really long time. So we've segmented out, and unchanged files don't have to back up every night. But still, the storage, the cloud gets incredibly expensive when you're renting hard drive space by the gigabyte. And we used Carbonite for lots of years. And then they decided, instead of it being sort of an unlimited, they were going to sell it for $50 per month per 500 gigs. And so in this case, this customer would have been paying $100 a month for a terabyte of hard drive space. And then, so I was thinking, okay, well, now's the time. It's no longer this little cheap endeavor. Cloud storage is getting expensive now when all things are being considered. And then, so we've got to construct some cloud storage that we can create locally, that we don't have to be so dependent on the whims of one or two players in the cloud backup space, right? And so we trialed a bunch of companies, and around the pricing was about the same. It felt like that there was a surplus, like there was a scarcity of hard drive space, so the price went up. And when they saw people start using a couple terabytes worth of stuff, they said, well, had to cut that off. So what we did was we bought licensing to do that same thing local, where we take local backups and we're just piping it over to somewhere in our office. And if we can get away with the same pricing scheme, then we, as a person, as a company in Northeast Ohio, we can claim some of that business and be every bit as good with benefit, where if I really needed to take your hard drive and just run it down to you because it's in the same, part of town as you, that's really the advantage. If the cost is the same and it uploads your backup every night like it's supposed to, and then I can go down the road and grab it if I needed to, that's the benefit. So if I keep the pricing the same, I'm going to lock up a bunch of licensed customers doing this schema here. So we'll see. Like I said, we're still trialing it out. We did a bunch of investment in equipment and software licensing to get it just right. We have a great company that is our first customer in this. That's our guinea pig as we trial this through, and they've given us a bunch of grace to be able to figure this out. And if it works out, then I'm going to roll this out and have this cloud backup solution for more and more people. And it's not really reinventing the wheel. I'm sure that this exists in other people's enterprises, and whether or not it's subscription as a service thing where they have a software package that you can resell and whatever. But I'm more of I'd like to do it myself if I can, and just dropping my logo on somebody else's product sometimes isn't enough. I like to be involved, and it's fun for me to have something that we kind of have ownership here. We can make it into a mini enterprise here if we needed to. So that's that. And backup. I mean, we used to talk about on this show. It used to be a every other week we'd talk about the backups, because we'd have some kind of cautionary tale about somebody who all of a sudden realized that backups are necessary. Something failed, and then we had to rescue them, and it was not bad, but it could have been so much worse. Then we'd use those tales for you. Well, that either backup solutions got super good and you guys figured it out, or what I've been saying resonated and you took heed, you heeded the warnings, because we don't really hit people anymore that have these, bad backup scenarios where they're doing neglectful things. The message is received or something, because a lot of you are when we go to use a backup, it's as perfect as we want it to be, and that makes things so much easier, especially when we have these stupid scammers who send these attachments that are intended to catch you off guard, but they're this virus that kind of like encrypts your data and then holds it hostage, and you have to pay them money for them to release you. Well, the best thing to do is one of those, let's just say a user it happens to, they encrypt everything on their desktop. It's super easy just to go in there and restore it from a good backup from the previous night. And the worst that happens is you lost some work from today, right? But if you don't have a good backup, that's not an option. And now things get really complicated from there. So I'm just really glad that the last couple times that we needed to be able to get the backup, boom, we just nailed it. So if you're not doing a backup and you think that you should, this is Amnesty Week for Youngstown Computer. Call us in there, and then we'll sit down. We'll kind of take a look at and see what the best options are. Our services are this: like we are an IT company that if your operation needs computer work done, but you don't have enough to install your own own IT employee, you can just take as much time as your company needs through us. So some people only use us 3 hours a week. Some people use us 3 hours a month, and everything in between. So you just take the stuff that's concerning most and you say, hey, I want, once a week, somebody comes through here, just make sure our backups are running. And if they're not getting to run, boom, that is perfect utilization of Youngstown Computer. If that's you, call our office, tell our guys that you'd like us to manage your backup. We're really soft sellers. Like, unless you ask us about it, we're not going over the top. The only thing we'll mention is if we see some red flags, something that's you're in danger, we'll mention it. It's still up to you whether or not you want us to it to be on our rate, your stuff to be on our radar. But we're bulldogs in your corner. Like we're just like an attorney. We're going and batting for you and looking out for things that might not have your best interest, and that's anything from environmental things, software things, even outside vendor things. We've had companies that say, I got to call AT&T and I have no idea what they're going to say to me. Would you please take this call for me? And I'm like, yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, because then nobody can talk BS and say things that people don't understand and sign you into products that you don't need. You got us to be on your behalf. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. 330-729-9977. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Hi again, friends. It's Dan Rivers from Window Nation. Back to school time is here, and Window Nation is ready to help you get an A+ in savings right now. 2 free windows with every 2 you buy, 0% interest until 2024. Free scholarship money, right? Use it toward your kids' school supplies or treat yourself, because Window Nation savings keep on coming. Temperatures soar, so do energy bills. Old, inefficient windows contribute to that. Stay cool, lower those bills, and raise the value of your home with new Energy Star efficient windows. Window Nation has expertly installed over 1 million windows, rewarding and increasing value in over 150,000 homes, all with over 96% needing no follow-up service. That's an A+. Now it's your turn to make the smart move and get to the head of the class. Get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. Buy 4, get 4. There's no limit. Plus 0% interest until 2024. No homework needed. Set up your free in-home consultation today. You'll save during Window Nation's back-to-school sale. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. Tell them Dan sent you.
Folks, this is Congressman Bill Johnson. I'm answering some questions from the people I represent.
Congressman Johnson, my husband and I can't afford to fill up our car with gas. We don't know how much longer we can keep this up. What's going on?
I understand. That's a real worry. Not long ago, America was energy independent, but no more. Washington regulations, red tape, and flawed policies have led to record high gas prices, soaring energy costs, and runaway inflation. The numbers on the gas pump and grocery store checkout add up way too quickly. But it doesn't have to be this way. I'm fighting for energy solutions that help Ohio workers and families. Visit billjohnson.house.gov to learn more about what I'm doing for Eastern and Southeastern Ohio by demanding energy independence, lower gas prices, lower inflation, and a stronger economy. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-777-1225. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-777-1225. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-777-1225. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-777-1225. 800-777-1225.
Hey, you're listening to me for free right now. And that's awesome because it seems like they're trying to charge you for everything these days. But not radio and not the iHeartRadio app. It's all free. Podcasts, streaming music, digital radio, all in one for $0. It's like, why wouldn't you download it? Unless you want to pay for it. But that's weird. Don't do that. I mean, you can't. But you can listen to everything you love on the iHeartRadio app. Download it today for free.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. If you want to get online, we got a whole another hour of talking tech. 330-729-9977. Text me at 330-333-157, and I'll read those comments online. This texter says, do you do house calls to help set up Wi-Fi printers? Absolutely do. Yes. Anything you could think of that has to do with a peripheral or computer or technology, tablets, phones, whatever you need help connecting and getting working, you can hire the brains at Youngstown Computer, and you're renting our brains for a period of time. You can put us on some stuff that you have been thinking about or wondering about, and that's repairing stuff or even setting it up. They can sell you the equipment. We can either do Ubiquiti, Netgear, or Unify. Also, some of the Google Wi-Fi is one of our favorites. So if you already have the equipment, we could just come out and set it up for you. Or if you need us to do it for you, we can kind of eyeball and see what the proper equipment is and set up a couple of those Google Wi-Fi pods. So yeah, absolutely. The phone number for the office is 330-259-7278. So if you need something scheduled, call Devin. It's option number 2 when you call in. Devin is the operator over there on the residential services. So leave him a message. They do not work on Saturday, but he'll catch you on Monday and get something scheduled for you. Okay, this says, no sentence in the English language may be more infuriating than the following 12 words. We have been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. The state of Ohio is doing something about that. You have David Yost, and we had actually contacted David Yost's office to see if we can get someone to comment on this, but they are going after 2 entities in California. The name as Roy Melvin Cox Jr. and Aaron Michael Jones from California are the biggest repeat offenders on breaking U.S. telemarketing rules, and they are going after them. Yost's office even said that if a slap on the wrist doesn't work, you punch them in the face and knock them out. So they are taking it super serious on these robocallers being over the top on the amount of phone calls that go out. Everybody's received them. Joe's Fix, like obviously the state of Ohio is doing what they can to protect, but here's what you can do. Ready? So if you have an iPhone, I do not know if they have a Android version of this, but if you have an iPhone, which many of you do, there are 2 applications that I run on mine. The first one is NoMoRobo, right? You open this app, you subscribe to this app, and you keep it open, and you tell the phone to dump junk calls. If you go into settings and phone calls, there's an option for junk calls, and you can tell your phone when it registers a junk call what you do with it. And then you use NoMoRobo as the database for what equals a junk call. Probably one of the most robust databases that I've ever come across. Don't even know what it costs. It's probably a couple bucks a month, if I remember correctly. But I will tell you 90% of all the calls that come through that are junk calls get killed because of NoMoRobo. I have a same option for spam text, but we come back to this break. I'll tell you all about it. Stay tuned. This is the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Now, I'm one of the lucky 25% of Americans with more than $500 in savings right now. But I had a real problem. I was getting hit by people wanting to sell me shiny new investments I didn't understand. ETFs or coins that were going to the moon. I'm a bit old-fashioned. I like my feet on the ground and my investments. When I spoke to the team at Noble Gold, they didn't boast that anything was going into orbit. They told me that my money would do better than inflation. And with precious metals or a gold IRA, I would actually get real gold and not a certificate. That sounds more like it, huh? If you've been thinking of precious metals, Noble Gold has just won the top pick for IRA providers out of 18 in the Consumer Affairs rankings. And they're giving away a beautiful 1/10-ounce gold American Eagle coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k rollover. This gift is for qualified IRA rollovers only. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call the team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more or visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Studios. Available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now, number one for podcasting, 570 WKBN, Youngstown.
From ABC News, I'm Mark Remillard. Former Vice President Mike Pence is sure to face questions about his possible presidential aspirations as he visited the Iowa State Fair this week.
The former vice president now signaling that he might cooperate with the January 6th committee.
If ever any formal invitation rendered to us, we get a due consideration.
Pence's Iowa appearance coming as Congresswoman Liz Cheney, in an interview with ABC's John Carl, urged him to testify.
Everyone who has information has an obligation to step forward. So I would hope that he will do that.
Pence isn't the only potential presidential candidate hitting the stump. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also campaigned with Republicans Friday in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
That's ABC's Avery Harper in Iowa. More U.S. aid is coming to Ukraine. The Pentagon says the U.S. will send another $775 million in military aid to the country that will include drones, howitzers, armored vehicles, and more. Jurors in Los Angeles hearing testimony in a lawsuit brought by the wife of late basketball star Kobe Bryant. Vanessa Bryant is suing Los Angeles County over the release of photos from the site of the helicopter crash that killed her husband and teenage daughter, Gianna.
One officer admitting in court, expressing regret that he showed those photos to a bartender. Attorneys for Los Angeles County, though, have argued that deputies and firefighters had official reasons for taking those photos on site, adding that all of those images taken by first responders were deleted.
That's ABC's Morgan Norwood. A federal judge in Georgia has denied an effort by Senator Lindsey Graham to delay testifying before a grand jury investigating possible efforts by former President Trump and others to interfere with the 2020 election. The judge ruled any further delay would compound the overall delay in carrying out the grand jury's investigation. Graham is scheduled to appear before the grand jury on Tuesday. A judge has denied bail to the man accused of attacking author Salman Rushdie last week. You're listening to ABC News.
Bail was set at $100,000 for a man facing several charges, including 2 counts of rape. 23-year-old Jack Ryan Ziegler is facing a total of 6 charges. Reports say police found that he was giving gift cards to 2 boys in return for sexual encounters. The alleged crimes happened back in July of 2020. Ziegler was booked into the Trumbull County Jail. Girard police say the investigation is still ongoing. Within the next 30 days, more roads and intersections will close in downtown Youngstown. Currently, 3 roads are under construction as part of the Smart 2 project. Boardman Street, Commerce Street, and Front Street are being worked on, but soon construction will begin on Federal Street. All 4 of those roads will be closed once they begin the paving process, which should take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. 34-year-old Martin Demeline has been indicted by a Mahoney County grand jury on charges including 4 counts of rape. The indictment alleges he raped and otherwise sexually assaulted a child younger than 13 at the time of some of the alleged offenses between late 2019 and as recently as this past June. He's in the Mahoney County Jail. A passenger is in critical condition after a one-car crash last night that happened on Route 30 near 172. The State Highway Patrol says 67-year-old Richard Benoit was charged with OVI after a car he was driving went off the left side of the road, striking a mailbox and trees, coming to rest in a ditch. A passenger had to be extracted from the vehicle and taken to Mercy Hospital in Youngstown with life-threatening injuries. A Beaver Township road closure has been extended. Garfield Road will remain closed between Green Beaver Road and Washingtonville Road for culvert replacement. It's extended through August 25th. And the Trumbull County Sanitary Engineer's Office announced a controlled water service shutdown for Brookfield. The shutdown will be for emergency repairs. It's planned from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday. From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Newsroom, drivecolumbiana.com, I'm Dave Price.
News Radio 570, WKBN, Youngstown.
This weather update brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Temperatures really starting to warm up out there thanks to mostly sunny skies. Highs will top out in the mid to upper 80s, and then there will be some chances for showers and storms later on this afternoon, but really overnight. From the Storm Team 27 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Adam Clayton.
Man, this Greek food was fantastic. Where'd you find this place?
I researched online. They had the best reviews everywhere I looked.
Wow, the reviews were right. You see any other companies we need to try?
Well, now that you mention it, we do need to replace these old windows.
We've been putting it off. Who should we use?
Window Depot.
Window Depot?
That's right, Window Depot. They had a perfect 5-star rating on every review site.
Attention Valley homeowners, Window Depot is your trusted local source for new triple pane windows. It's our window blowout sale. Receive free installation on a house full of new windows with 0% interest for 18 months. Plus, receive a $100 Giant Eagle gift card with purchase. And the first 10 callers at 1-800-433-8577 will receive a $25 restaurant.com gift card with qualified estimate. Dial 1-800-433-8577. That's 1-800-433-8577.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Summer's rising temperatures often coincide with rising outdoor water use. Save water and money in the yard this year by sweeping driveways, sidewalks, and steps rather than hosing them off. Don't forget to check for leaks at your spigot connection and tighten as necessary. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. This is your technology show where we can ask questions or get involved in the program either by calling the show, asking your question, or sharing your story, or you can text me all program long. Phone number 330-729-9977. The text number is 330-333-1570. And you can also message over on Facebook. Facebook Live, if you're watching over there, welcome to the program over that direction. For the last 3 consecutive weeks, we've done Facebook Live. So we've been coming through on the commitment to bringing your video and audio over on social media channels. So kind of cool, and welcome you in. So 330-729-9977. This says, I put an ISO image on my external hard drive of my laptop. The hard drive on my laptop crashed. I have no way to boot. How difficult is it to image back on laptop after you replace it with an SSD? Let me see. Put an image on there. I have no way to boot. How difficult is it to put an image back on the laptop after I replace? So you will have to either you'll have to get something bootable. So you have to make some kind of bootable media. You could do that off of Microsoft's website. You can download the ISO image, and you can download a program called Rufus, and Rufus will create a bootable USB drive, and then you can either use Rufus to load a disk. If you don't have a DVD or you don't have a CD, you can boot right off the flash drive. So hopefully that answers your question there. For the rest of you, these ISO images are basically if you took a snapshot of whatever was on your hard drive, your operating system, your programs, your data, everything that's on there. You can create that image and then create an ISO of everything that's there. So we used to circulate programs and install files on CDs and DVDs. Those basically can be snapshotted as well. So you can take an image. So let's just say I have the Windows 11 disk and I have a flash drive that has a bunch of ISOs. Well, those are a collection of what would be on the DVD if I were to take that image and throw them on that form factor. Well, Rufus is just basically a program that allows you to create a bootable version of whatever. So a flash drive that's not bootable is just warehousing raw data. But you can use Rufus to create a bootable media. So then your flash drive turns into what would otherwise be a CD or a DVD. So just want to bring everybody up on the speed on that. 330-729-9977. Before the break, I shared Nomo Robo as the best way to combat phone calls that otherwise would be spam calls, because we get a ton of them. And some of them are spoofed where I mess with them. So I'm getting them anyway, and they're frustrating me, and I'm picking up the phone and swearing at them, and it's taking energy out of me. So I put a program on my phone that allows me to record conversations. And when they call, I record my interactions with them. Okay. And here's what I do. So you always know it's a scammer. Like your phone might say, John Smith in Canfield, Ohio. Right. And I don't know John Smith, but it makes me pick up the phone because they spoofed the caller ID and they made it look like it's John Smith. So I pick up the phone and I hear bloop, right? That bloop means that the call automation software handed the call. Like it's calling thousands of people. And when I get on the line, the computer hands it off to a real person. So that bloop is the transfer. Now, if they had masked that little bloop, it'd be harder to recognize. But that bloop just means, oh, it's time to record. So bloop. And then someone says, hi, is this Joseph? And then I say, yeah, who is this? And they say, this is blah, blah, blah. And I said, where are you calling from? And I'm calling from blah, blah, blah. And usually when you start asking them questions, they just hang up on you. And then it makes it for a small phone call. And I say, well, my caller ID says it's John Smith. Do you know John Smith? Are you related to John Smith? Like why is John Smith coming up? And they'll usually say something like, oh, we must have got John Smith's phone number. It must have been his old number. And then it just hasn't been changed. Oh, okay. Good enough. And caller ID says, Canfield. You calling from Canfield? Yeah. Where in Canfield or what state is that in? And that's usually when they hang up. So I will engage them and expense the imaginative energy in creating, entertaining phone calls, trying to mess with scammers and just wasting their time. I don't know what John Smith was going to even pitch me, and I don't care, but I would say 50% of the incoming calls are all spam, scammers, and those warranty people. Of those, probably 75% automatically get dumped off with my Nomo Robo. And then 25% of those I answer and make some kind of a entertaining, recording from them. But if you ever hear that bloop, just hang up. Like, don't even worry about it. Nobody legitimate's going to bloop you. So just hang up on them. So the second program that I use is called Text Killer, TXT Killer. And this works almost identical as the call database, but this is a text database. So you install this program and pay your, $20 a year or like a couple bucks a month. And you allow the iPhone to use, you go into the iPhone, you go to settings, you go to text messages, and there's a junk text messages. And all you do is allow Text Killer, while it's open, while it's updating its database, to compare the number that it comes in on. And if it's part of a number that it knows is part of the network of scammers or spammers, it'll automatically dump it off and send it to the junk pile. And that, again, is probably about, I would say this one's closer to 100%, but 100% of the spammy ones get caught up in that because the scam texts are a little bit different because they can't hide the verbiage or what they're pitching. They have to put it in the text message. And so it's super easy for them to parse out and say, this one looks like a spam message, because they're not like, hey, Joseph, are you there? And then waiting for a response to make their pitch. They just throw it out there. And so it immediately just goes in the junk pile. I don't even see it. Now, here's the danger. This stuff works incredibly well, but every once in a while, you have to check your junk piles to see if something legitimate got caught. You don't want real text messages that says, hey, I can't come in tomorrow, to get caught in that. So the end of the week, I'll go through those junk ones and see if I have to rescue any. And all it is you put the people who got stuck in there in your contacts, and then if they're in your contacts, they make it through anyway. So a lot of the people get stuck there should have been in the contacts to begin with. It wouldn't have been a problem. But eventually there might be sort of like a trustable authority and more algorithms that are in charge of keeping scammy spammers away from it, because the state of Ohio going after the source is one thing, and that's when you're United States based. But if you're not in the United States, you don't have to listen to US law. And I could just send a text message to a phone number. It's not illegal to send text messages from overseas. And it's cheap, it's inexpensive, and I can get to you and I don't have to follow the law, right? And if you shut me down, I'll just move to another one. It's not all that difficult to get communications through. So the second part of this danger is if we can control operators in the United States, there has to be a trust mechanism that, let's just say you do not receive any phone calls or text messages directly in from anybody who's on your contacts list. So how many legitimate calls and things that you were thankful for from a total stranger came in? Like if Jay Leno called you to thank you for, those funny marriage things, those funny last name marriage things. What if he called you, thank you for the submission? And because Jay Leno wouldn't be on your contacts list, you can't get the call because you only allow incoming calls from people who are on that list. Versus your home phone, sometimes you have to, it'll stop. It'll make you announce who you are. It'll announce who you are to the person in the home. And if they don't accept the call, you just go to a dead space anyhow. So there's ways that we've tackled this, but it's still a pretty significant problem for some of us. It makes text messaging, voice, and email especially almost useless. If you knew how much exploitation, how many messages get sent to you on all three of those that never make it to you because someone is, smartly picking out the worst offenders, like they're making it usable, but I don't know that they can always outwit the people who really want to get into your inbox. It's such a cheap, it's free, right? They even suggested at times making it so it's a penny an email sent, right? Because if you're sending 10 emails, like 10 cents is not going to be anything for you. But those of you who are blasting a billion email messages out might not want to pay the, couple $10,000 or $100,000 to send out those emails. And it might be just enough, put enough of a cost on it to keep the offenders limited as to how many that they send out. So there's a billion, different ways of combating this, but thanks to Ohio. And again, if we can get David Yost's office in here, we'll talk a little bit about someone from David Yost's office on the phone. We'll see if we can talk about their pursuits, but they did pass some pretty strict robocall legislation. And now it's about how many teeth are in that law and what they can do about it. So that is an interesting deal. And let's go to the next thing. So spacewalk cut short by issues with Russian cosmonauts. You kind of know that I'm a space freak where I really pay attention. Early on, we talked to Denny and we were talking about setting up a base on Mars, or a base on the moon, so we can start doing more space exploration, maybe mining. But there's some problems that are that are sort of like hanging out there, no pun intended. Last week there was a Chinese rocket that was spent, and they really didn't know where it was going to crash down, splash out. So there's a ton of this debris that's circling the orbits of Earth, and some of that junk starts really screaming with some speed and does damage to other things in those orbits. We kind of picture the globe as this, thing we can hold in our hand, but it's really pretty big out there. And so when you start looking at the 100,000 objects circulating the Earth, it's like, oh, that seems like, it's pretty crowded up there. But when you think of like how many cars are in like one state at any given time, like the orbit is even bigger than the surface of the Earth. And the surface of the Earth isn't even populated with all that much, ground. So a couple 100,000 objects out there in the orbit, while it seems to be a lot, it's not as many as it feels, right? But still, there's stuff that's crashing in and falling out of orbit. And, it's just a matter of time before something splashes in a populated area and causes devastation. But I think we're being a little bit messy with the things that we allow just to hang out in space. And that's why I ended that last segment with, if we start traveling to Mars, what's to stop us from going to Mars and making a big mess like we always do? I think mess follows human beings around. I mean, you have a concert and look to see what concert goers leave in their wake. It's not, they don't, pick up the area, make sure there are no trash. It's a freaking disaster. The longer the concert, like the more mess we make. We just can't help ourselves but to have a wake of destruction and litter and whatever. And so like when we start considering who's going to get to go to these other planets, do we want people who are frequent offenders here? I mean, and I'm not talking about like what activist principles you had. I'm just saying, look around your house. And if you're a mess, then you're going to create, there's going to have to be some strict standards of who we invite to these other planets. So we don't have these, the people who are really exhibiting wastefulness and pollution in real time. And I don't know if anybody's pure enough that we could take anybody, put them on a new planet and expect them to be, to not destroy the next one or whatever. As Denny was talking, the atmosphere is not great for human beings anyhow. So we're going to be more or less living in apartments rather than living on the face of another planet until we're able to invent the technologies to head to other, solar systems where there are inhabitable atmospheres and planets. But anyway, so I don't know if you've got some ideas on how we can restrict. If we become a spacefaring, we can escape this planet if we destroy it too much, which means we can populate and bring our species to maybe 20 planets, and we can have 20 Earths, 20 Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, and we can try different experiments on them. And if we goof it up, we can just move on another planet. We really don't have to care about pollution or extracting too many raw material resources. We could just keep jumping planets as we have exhausted the resources of that one. So 330-729-9977. Let me tell you a little bit about Youngstown Computer. I want you to take our number down and I want you to write it on a sticky note and I want you to just stick it on the side of your computer. And if something in the future requires technical help, please, we volunteer to be that technical help when that need arrives. 330-259-7278 is our phone number. And we can do everything from repairs to new equipment. We offer a line of computers that we build for our commercial services. And many of you have purchased computers through us because you're supporting the efforts of having a local manufacturer or at least assembler in your community. And we really appreciate you. We've sold way more computers than I ever thought that we might. I wanted to do it, but you guys made that happen. So if you're in the market for a new computer, laptop, router, external hard drive, all of the retail goods, please give us a shot and call our office when those needs arise. 330-259-7278 is the phone number. Give Youngstown Computer. Hopefully will be an option when those things happen. And if you spend money, with us, we promise to keep spending that money as local as we possibly can, sourcing as many local vendors as humanly possible. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. This is the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBM.
Sometimes you only have seconds. A lot has happened, and the world can change right before your very ears. Stay informed and up to date with the very latest.
Pay attention to what's happening.
News Radio 570, WKBN.
Anthony was working a dead-end job.
I was surviving, but I wasn't getting ahead anymore.
A friend told him about My Computer Career.
She's like, I'm already in the program. She's like, you'd be crazy if you don't do it. So I jumped right in and have not regretted it.
Anthony did it all online.
All you got to do is have an internet connection, and you can do it.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
You need to check out My Computer Career. If it worked for me, it'll definitely work for you too.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Listen to your engine sound like your car's gonna die. Trade it in a Taylor, pick up your key and tell you right. Bring your trade into the Taylor Zone.
Taylor Kia.
It's worth more cash here at the Taylor Zone.
Maverick. Right now, lease the 2022 Kia Telluride LX all-wheel drive for only $439 a month for 36 months with 0 to signing. Do you copy?
Take the highway to the Taylor Zone. Get your new Kia from the Taylor Zone.
Roger that. Taylor Kia Portman.
Friends, this is Congressman Bill Johnson. I'm answering some questions from the people I represent.
Congressman Johnson, I'm a veteran. I served my country, but now I find dealing with the VA on healthcare difficult and burdensome.
I get it. First, thanks for your service. I'm proud of my own Air Force service, and it helps guide what I do. I've made fighting to improve services for our veterans a priority since day one. We passed the VA Mission Act to expand veterans' health care access. It's important that veterans have the choice to seek local options for care, rather than having to travel longer distances or deal with greater wait times for appointments at VA facilities. I'm also committed to helping everyone navigate the Washington bureaucracy, whether it's the VA, Social Security, passports, IRS, or another federal agency. Visit billjohnson.house.gov to learn more about what I'm doing for Eastern and Southeastern Ohio and to get help if you need assistance. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. This is your show where we can talk about anything in technology. So if anything's rolling around in your head, you need to throw it my way, feel free, 330-729-9977. Also, text message, 333-1570. Text messenger asking me about CRISPR. And this is something that I don't know a whole lot about. This is biotech, and it looks like for a while now, we've had the ability to edit genetics, like make changes to genetics, and which is, I would consider a very innovative technology, but also probably riddled with a lot of moral objections. Through the history of mankind, we've talked about like taking certain attributes out of the genetic possibilities, maybe even taking some abnormalities out of the genetic possibilities. But I can't say that I have much. I've just, started reading about it. And if you have a take on it, give me a call, 330-729-9977. But as a technology, I don't think it's actually being implemented. I think that's still in research, and maybe they are doing some studies on it, but I don't think there are any like CRISPR gene therapies or anything at this point. But if I'm mistaken, please give me a call and let me know. 330-729-9977. Let's go next to Alan. Alan, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Oh, I'd like to discuss so many things with you, but let's start with our friends at NASA.
Okay.
You talk about a boondoggle. From what I've read, that one Artemis, the proper name, I don't know, I've been hit with COVID pretty bad, lost half my brain, but is going to cost roughly the same as launching 10 of SpaceX's largest rockets. Now, what in the hell are we doing that for if we can get 10 to 1?
Yeah, I have no idea, and I know they're pretty good at bidding with SpaceX to do this, but why they decided to take it out on their own, I have no idea.
Those plans were put in motion before SpaceX was seriously launching, but nevertheless,
right.
You can see what that space shuttle turned into.
Right.
That was going to be the quick, I don't know what kind of delivery truck. You're going to load up for the space station and bring it right back and fill it up, wash it down, give it a car wash, and send it back up. No, we got something we had to paste thousands of little ceramic heat shields on every launch. You could have built a completely new one. I mean, all it took, look, one guy who really knew nothing about space, and he's filling them up, landing them, refurbishing them within hours, it seems, and sending them back up again. And NASA still hasn't accomplished that. And nor has Russia, from what I understand, and China's just getting into it. I mean, this government-funded stuff is a joke. I mean, I can see why. I mean, let me give you a brief background.
Sure.
I'm 72 now. When I was young, I was absolutely in love with anything to do with science. I cleaned out our little Camel library, read everything science and science fiction they had. They eventually gave me an adult card so I could go to the main library and go through that. I signed up for these NASA. They'd send me every month of things showing the space stations they were going to have, the bases on every planet in the thing. And what do we have? Here I am, 72, I'm no longer a young child, and we're going back to the moon. That's the best they could do in 50-some years. Come on. That thing should have been dumpstered a long, long time ago. But let's switch real quick, if we can, to whatever time you can give me on electric vehicles. Why in the world are they building all these factories for chips and things when the technology is changing by the day? I'm hearing things about even turning wood into batteries. You're going to build all these multi-billion-dollar factories, and by the time you finally got them up, you've got a totally different technology? I mean, that seems crazy. China basically owns it. You've got access to all these rare earths. They scoop them all up. How in the world can we compete with them when they outprice us on everything especially cars? They're talking about $20,000 cars being imported to the country if we allow them to. And we're going to compete with what, $60,000, $50,000 ones? I don't see it.
All right, Alec, can I hold you over to the next break here real quick?
Oh, I can talk for hours.
All right, cool. I'm going to put you on hold, and then we'll continue this conversation after the next break here. Two important elements that Alan was just touching on a minute ago, the space exploration, and there is a connection between the space exploration and the EV market, and I want to ask him a couple questions going into that. But if anybody wants to get on the phones after this break, 330-729-9977. You can also text me at 330-333-1570, and we will get you in. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be right back.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Plastic waste in the environment persists for hundreds to thousands of years and creates serious risks for wildlife, ecosystems, and humans. Help reduce plastic waste by replacing single-use plastic packaging, bottles, and containers with reusable products. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Bail was set at $100,000 for a man facing several charges, including 2 counts of rape. 23-year-old Zach Ryan Ziegler is facing a total of 6 charges. He's in the Trumbull County Jail. Within the next 30 days, more roads and intersections will close in downtown Youngstown. It's all part of the Smart 2 project. Boardman Street, Commerce Street, and Front Street are being worked on. Soon, construction will begin on Federal Street. 34-year-old Martin Demeline has been indicted by a Mahoning County grand jury on charges including 4 counts of rape. He's been booked into the Mahoning County Jail. A passenger is in critical condition after a one-car crash last night. It happened on Route 30 near 172. 67-year-old Richard Benoit was charged with OVI. The passenger was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. The Trumbull County Sanitary Engineer's Office announced a control water service shutdown for Brookfield. It's for emergency repairs. It's planned from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday. From the Power Chevrolet Buick GMC of Calcutta, Ohio newsroom, I'm Dave Price.
We're a country of so many voices, yet some still struggle to be heard. Let your voice be heard. News Radio 570, WKBN.
This weather update brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Temperatures really starting to warm up out there thanks to mostly sunny skies. Highs will top out in the mid to upper 80s, and then there will be some chances for showers and storms later on this afternoon, but really overnight. From the Storm Team 27 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Adam Clayton.
Listen, the last time the economy looked like this, the stock market tanked 50%. The U.S. dollar lost 46% of its value, and the price of oil quadrupled. Yet, while the U.S. economy collapsed and inflation ran through the roof, the price of gold shot up 1,300%, and silver rocketed over 2,400%. So if history repeats itself, we could see it happen again. Can you afford to miss what could be the biggest gold and silver boom of our generation? That's why I want you to call Goldco. at 855-815-GOLD, because when you do, you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings with gold and silver, but as a Sean Hannity listener, you could get $10,000 or more in free silver just for doing it. This is a rare opportunity, and that's why I want you to call, again, Goldco at 855-815-GOLD. That's Goldco, 855-815-GOLD. Don't miss out. Check them out today.
Are you tired of gas prices? Try GoHio Commute for free. On-demand transportation. GoHio Commute offers an interactive platform to save money, improve your health, and enhance our air quality without interrupting your daily routine. Learn more at GoHioCommute.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-990-8755 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-990-8755. That's 800-990-8755. What do you have to lose? Call 800-990-8755. Again, 800-990-8755.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'm Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and this is your show about technology. Before that break, we were talking to Alan about two topics. One is space exploration and the government boondoggle to take Artemis back to the moon. And then we also started talking about EVs and the technologies and how fast the innovation curve is going on this, and whether or not it's a practical pursuit to build lots of infrastructure around something that's changing. And my question to Alan, I'm going to bring him back on the phone here. Alan, you still with me?
Oh yeah, I'm still
Okay.
here.
All right,
waiting
so-
for my lost dog to return. Oh, B's been gone all morning.
All right.
Smarter than me. I think every time I think I've got these dogs contained, they prove me wrong.
So my question is this. So we talked first about the SpaceX versus NASA, where, there's a lot of this exploration that's going to go down that doesn't necessarily have like a commercial utility. And where I don't think SpaceX is going to justify spending the money to go into those territories. So a natural cooperation between NASA, who can subsidize the parts that really won't pay for themselves. Can you ever see like SpaceX taking lead and then NASA being a fill-in person, or will it always be the other way around?
Well, why not bypass NASA? All it's doing is absorbing money that could be spent directly on the cause. But I mean, one of the things that we're supposedly going to the moon for, it's supposed to be a good source of helium-3, which is needed, or at least can definitely help the process of hydrogen fusion, which from what I'm reading, we are supposedly, of course, I've been hearing that for about 10 years or more. It seems like they have a small circumstances, time, that have actually achieved fusion. Now, tell me what that will do for this government and its economy. You're talking about zero emissions, zero mitigation. This is the answer to everything. And then instead, we're going to go back to building fission plants that are going to take a minimum of 4 years to get built. And in the meantime, the fusion might be there, might be able to be put in much quicker, like a year's time. And we have fusion plants before we have the latest fission plant. Government is every government.
All right, Alan, we're losing you. I'm going to put you back on hold. I'll check in with you here in a couple of minutes where you're going in and out there. So if we can get a better connection, I'd appreciate that. 330-729-9977. This texter says, great show. A lot of what you said applies. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm assuming that was on the business show. But if you want to call 330-729-9977, or you can text me at 333-157. If you have any opinion about the roles that the federal government is going to play through NASA versus privately done through SpaceX, and sort of like the possibilities. So we have, as Alan was talking about, that there's some resources that can harvest the helium that we can use either for electricity generation or even rocket fuel. If it's going to be a moon base where we do launches from, we're going to need to create a bunch of fuel. And if there are resources on the moon to create that fuel, then we have a mission base where you don't have to land on the Earth and use all that fuel to just escape Earth's gravity. You can go to a lesser gravitational body and have an easier time. I don't have to burn so much fuel. Let's go back to Alan and see if we can play through his connection a little bit. You still with me?
I don't know. You have to tell me. I'm
all
in
right, that sounds
between two cell towers.
Okay. All right. If you'll call me back, Alan, we'll see if we can get a better connection. Appreciate that. And so if you have an opinion of whether or not, it's practical. I mean, what I was going to pitch to Alan here is what would happen if, we got an operational moon base where we could do lower cost launches, wouldn't have to exhaust so much fuel up there. And then if we got a robust mining operation where, as Denny said, that we can launch these things out robotically, grab some, floating rocks. I mean, we've got a bunch of really close bodies that are mineable, and it might make it like we've been, tolerating the resources that we have here on the planet. What if we can go out and get stuff, gold and platinum and anything we need, and there's an infinite amount that is mineable just by robotics pulling it down to moon base and having a once a month or once a quarter rocket landing to take all the materials that were harvested. And now you have a mining operation where we're not limited to lithium and we don't have to dig here. We can just go out into space, and space doesn't care, I guess. If you make a mess up there, it's not as dangerous as pulling stuff out of the ground here. What if we didn't have to touch any of the stuff in the ground here? We can get most of our rare earth metals and minerals from what's floating around in space. So it's a good enough topic. 330-729-9977 or text me at 333-1570. And, and the other part of that, I'm going to answer his Alan's question from that last segment about the innovation. Now, there is an immense amount of demand. If you look at the order books for all of the manufacturers, sales is not their problem. It's being able to manufacture enough cars to satisfy the demand. If you look at the order books, I mean, if I purchased a car, a regular new Tesla, it's 9 months wait, right? And if you're in an industry that you can't sell your next available product for 9 months, like, it is incumbent on you to get your manufacturing up to the level where you're keeping a little bit closer reach on incoming orders. You got to keep up with that. So let's just say you got 1.5 million pre-orders on the Cybertruck. You wait a year. Does that go up or down? Did you wait too long? Did some people's situations change? Is your 1.5 million now down to 1 million, which is down to 500,000? Or is there so many that if you lose any, you get 5 more in their place and you don't have to do anything with demand? But an investor is going to say that it was a missed opportunity because you had sales that you could not satisfy. If you had 1.5 million and you get none of those, that is a big sin. You had a $100,000 car and you had 1.5 million orders. There's a lot of manufacturers that would fight to create that vehicle. And if you already have it, it would be a sin not to at least let that take shape. So, Alan's point was that, these technologies that we're putting a bunch of infrastructure in, what if the elements of those batteries and that innovation, that technology change? And so that you're no longer manufacturing something that is new now is needed. If we go from lithium, right, to, some kind of solid state battery, as he was talking about, like they're talking about using more renewables in there, where wood was one of the suggestions. Now, I don't know how that actually works. I don't know if that was satire or what, but we'll use that as an example because we're going to start using things that are more common and figuring out how to get, electricity or storage out of it. Because here's the deal. Like, all of the rest of our renewable technologies, whether it be wind or solar or anything, it's incumbent that we have proper methods of storage, safe, efficient ways of storing electricity. Like all of the electricity that we have right now is an on-demand system where they pump the entire grid full of it, right? And which means we have to oversupply by so much to keep up with that demand. Where if we went more of a storage model where you have, let's just say you have some solar panels and you get a bunch of electricity and you store it in your own battery banks. The storage has to be able to get you by until the next time that you can recharge, right? So you have to be able to produce 1 day's worth of your usage in one charging cycle of what's there, and then use the grid to top that off so that you always have enough to get you by for an entire day. And so, as you know, I bought a battery bank. I bought a lithium ion 12-volt battery, and I have two 150-watt solar panels and a charge controller and a power inverter. And I went through the whole gamut we did small scale testing. This is a really small scale. Like I can literally run maybe a sump pump off of my deal for maybe a half hour, and then it's exhausted. I can, because it's just not enough to do lots of things. So anyway, if I had a battery bank, my battery is full all the time, and I'm running, like a couple of lamps off of it just to kind of keep it cycled through. But I'm testing the fact that we right now, the battery bank that I have could not, on its best day, even take one room worth of utility off of my current electricity. It's just not powerful enough. You get any more battery banks and you're dealing with a whole lot of electricity. And even if I like my motorhome, I have 4 6-volt batteries that run the chassis, and it lasts about a day before it will go dead. Running a refrigerator and the lights and the outlets, it's got 1 day's worth of power, and that's 4 6-volt batteries that's running off, and that's that's a lot of power there. So I think in the future, having low cost batteries that are very dense and that are very efficient allows us to switch to a model where we can be off grid. Like off grid used to be I don't trust the system and I want to be my own thing, but you really don't have to have a system. Think about it as you have your major utilities, but if you wanted to not get water delivered to your house, there are ways where you could just do your own water. Electricity, you can do your own electricity. So as we cut the cable and we're able to take a cabin in the middle of nowhere and have ways of getting the same kind of services done on our own, batteries are one of probably the biggest vacancy in that whole system. The rest of it could be easily replicated, but the storage about it is not as good as it could be. So in the future, we'll see about the innovations that happen. I think that here's what I think is going to go on. I think our consumption is going to continue to go down. I think electricity and power prices are going to go up. Politics is just going to make an expensive pursuit to generate anything that has to do with power, which means the prices go up, and which means that they have to generate and design appliances and usages that makes our consumption go down to level that out. Once those levels go down, now some of your other sources of electricity have a better chance. If you were using, 20 kilowatt hours and you can turn that into 9 kilowatt hours, I mean, you're cutting your usage by so much that now maybe a lesser system has a chance of keeping up because of you doing that. If we do in this country something like nuclear, or we go after a big overhaul project, which I don't think we're likely to ever do, then that's one thing. But I can't see that. I don't see that there's enough will to do that. I think these policies, environmental policies, are going to become more, popular and push through government, which is going to do what I suggested, which is make those things more expensive. But then we're adaptable. We're going to be able to do that, and it's almost better if we do control and do push that adaptability. But I'm with Alan. I think that that we're going to change a whole lot in the technologies in really a rapid pace. But I think everybody who got in now, like the Altium plant or any of that, I think because we're so early on in the curve, lithium and the current technologies are going to be around long enough for that endeavor to pay off. Now, if I'm an investor and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, I might not be so quick to pull the trigger on a 10-year from now project, because as we said, that the stuff that it'll be so much different in 10 years that might not be a proper play. But there's people smarter than me that are testing these new ways of storing electricity, and they're not using the same methods that the old battery technologies are. They're really cutting edge stuff. And we're on the precipice of quantum computers and more quantum math in our everyday life. So in 5 years, you have no idea where we're going to be. But I would not feel like I was listening to the car guys earlier, and they were stressing a little bit about the infrastructure that couldn't support our current trajectory if everybody started using more electricity and the charging stations that are not available. And I think just the sheer amount of new vehicles are going to make the reaction happen in the private sector that's going to allow smaller companies to be able to fill that gap and invent those companies and invent those services that are going to fill that in. And you're going to be able to wake up one day and say, oh, you know what? We adapted quite well. We came through. If it stays the same, it's going to suck. If we don't make changes, it's going to suck pretty good. But I think this path, I think the how much more electricity that these cars are going to use on an aggregate, on a population of Ohio, when you add, 1 million cars a year, when you take that into consideration over all the states, like how many more charging hours are those 1 million cars going to actually add? If we put that on a spreadsheet and you separate that and do those in the middle of the night, you're going to see that it's probably not going to be a big enough ripple until you get to the mass production of hundreds of millions of cars. When I filled in for Dan a couple of weeks ago, I spreadsheeted out at what time period I thought that we would start to see a problem, because I think we're at 80% capacity on our electrical grid, and we're only segmenting off like 1% more of capacity every 1 million cars we put out there. And by the time that it's really going to get close to me starting to stress out is like 10 years from now, which in 10 years, I expect us to be in a far different place than we are right now. So if we've got another cool 10 years to get to a place where we can adapt upwardly, then I think we're going to be, just fine. So thank you for that, Alan. I appreciate your participation. If you do have a chance to call back, we do have a couple more minutes before the end of the show. A couple text message says, Alan for president. Alan is one of my favorite on this show. So we listened to a number of years, and Alan's been a really loyal part of all of the programming here on 570. So I consider him 570 royalty. Somebody said cool. Don't know what cool was. Probably Alan's message here. As far as messing up planets that we possibly move to in the future, I think the hope is by then that innovators will find ways to generate energy that don't require us to dig for raw materials or produce waste. Okay, yeah, and I agree with that. I think that in the future, I think we're going to be much better at utilizing what we do on Earth. Like if you knew, all right, we harness the ability to take energy out of an atom. We split an atom and produce nuclear energy, and we use it to boil water. As a kid, I was so disappointed because I thought, like, why can't we figure out how to take the energy and use it directly? Why do we have to translate the energy release into heat energy and use it to boil water, and then have the water, use a steam engine is pretty much what it is. And I don't know, that was just it was weird that how inefficient we are at translating the way that we do. So 330-729-9977 or text me 333-1570. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dan Rivers. Hey, I've been doing some videos. They're posted on my website, and you can also find them on my YouTube channel. Check it out. Dan Rivers, 570 WKBN, and on YouTube. Hi again, friends. It's Dan Rivers from Window Nation. Back to school time is here, and Window Nation is ready to help you get an A+ in savings right now. 2 free windows with every 2 you buy, 0% interest until 2024. Free scholarship money, right? Use it toward your kids' school supplies or treat yourself, because Window Nation savings keep on coming. Temperatures soar, so do energy bills. Old, inefficient windows contribute to that. Stay cool, lower those bills, and raise the value of your home with new Energy Star efficient windows. Window Nation has expertly installed over 1 million windows, rewarding and increasing value in over 150,000 homes. all with over 96%, needing no follow-up service. That's an A+. Now it's your turn to make the smart move and get to the head of the class. Get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. Buy 4, get 4. There's no limit. Plus 0% interest until 2024. No homework needed. Set up your free in-home consultation today. You'll save during Window Nation's back-to-school sale. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. Tell them Dan sent you.
Folks, this is Congressman Bill Johnson. I'm answering some questions from the people I represent.
Congressman Johnson, my husband and I can't afford to fill up our car with gas. We don't know how much longer we can keep this up. What's going on?
I understand. That's a real worry. Not long ago, America was energy independent, but no more. Washington regulations, red tape, and flawed policies have led to record high gas prices, soaring energy costs, and runaway inflation. The numbers on the gas pump and grocery store checkout add up way too quickly. But it doesn't have to be this way. I'm fighting for energy solutions that help Ohio workers and families. Visit billjohnson.house.gov to learn more about what I'm doing for Eastern and Southeastern Ohio by demanding energy independence, lower gas prices, lower inflation, and a stronger economy. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare information guide absolutely free. Call 800-909-9696. That's 800-909-9696.
Hey you, do you like sports? Of course you do. But how much do you actually know about the history of sports in this country? If you're not 100% sure about that, check out the new podcast, The Untold History of Sports in America, presented by One Day University. This podcast celebrates the ceremony and examines the controversial storylines around sports in America. Listen to The Untold History of Sports in America from One Day University on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. Let me tell you a little bit about Youngstown Computer. If you want to do business with us, have any needs that you need fielded out from Youngstown Computer, the phone number is 330-259-7278. We do everything from the service end of things, buying equipment, hardware, and yes, we can install Wi-Fi. It's one of our number one requested services as we go around your house. Take the maybe mediocre hardware that was given to you by your ISP, upgrading it to something that will work really well. And with so much streaming in our homes, it's pretty important to have some kind of good wireless, good, reliable, and you don't want to notice it. You don't want to have to reboot it. You don't have to mess with it. You just want to plug it in and let it work and do its thing. That's the trajectory we'll put you on. So if you need something, 330-259-7278. Call the number, leave a message today, and then Devin will give you a call, get something scheduled. Also, we do business stuff as well. So if you need your business taken care of, we are contracted so that you can use us as little or as much as you need us. And you can call our number, 330-259-7278, and Nick will give you a call. Let's take a phone call here for the last little segment of the Youngstown Computer Show. Bob's up. Bob, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Package Satan.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. All right. So let's see here. So one was a caller last week called and said that the subscription services like Netflix and Prime were down, and they are now retreating. Where we're now people who are watching entertainment are going back to conventional coax, conventional, your normal television, normal television resources. And so I looked that up and I wanted to see, are they really retreating or are they losing subscribers now? And honestly, this was from Q1 of 2022. Netflix, which has 221 million subscribers, like that blew my mind. Like they used to send out DVDs and now they have 221 million subscribers. That just blows my mind how big they are. Well, anyway, in Q1 of 2022, they lost 200,000. So if you have 220 million subscribers, and you lose 200,000, I would not say that the world is going to be shaken to its core. What I think is that, when gas gets to be $5 a gallon and a lot of people are cutting out things that, that are not necessary, I think streaming subscriptions are probably be on, one of the potentials to free up some resources. So that would be probably where I see that. You get us back down to regular costs and see what happens. And I bet you that bounces back to 400,000 growth and we're right back where we were before. So I don't see that as it's out of favor. I do think that there's a certain point where they've gotten like 220 million is a lot of people, and population declines and countries that allow it. I mean, you're getting to the point where it's almost the entire population of the United States. And these are it's for a household, not individual people. So you're going to run out of households. I think that you're getting close to almost 100% of possible customers at the 220 million level. But I don't know. Maybe you'll get into more countries. I don't know. Anyway, great show. We're going to skip next week. I'm going to be out at Cook Forest doing some camping, and then we'll return for the following week. And then we're going to do some Canfield Fair stuff after that. So I want you guys to have a great week. Thank you so much for calling and contributing and texting. This has been the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. Take care.